Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Schenkel. I am the chair of ANC 2C, and I'd like to welcome you to our July 11th community meeting. We have 3 of our 4 commissioners present this evening. I am commissioner for 2C01, representing Penn Chinatown, and we are missing the commissioner for 2C02, which is Rebecca Strauss, who is unable to join us this evening, I understand. From 2C03, Thomas, you want to do an intro?
Yes, I am the representative for 2C03, and that is the National Mall and Penn Quarter. So I share Penn Quarter with Michael.
Awesome, thank you. And from 2C04, we have Commissioner Rowe.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kristen Rowe from 2C04, which is downtown city center, and a little piece of Chinatown, which I do also share with Commissioner Schenkel.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us for our July meeting, and always a busy time of year for folks. We have a fairly full agenda this evening, which I will display for you.
If you want to read it,
approve that. The agenda is available at anc2c.us.
That's what they'll talk about, all these things.
That is anc2c.us.
Specific places.
I would like to remind you to please mute yourself if you're not muted for us. Oops. Okay, so tonight's agenda will include
community announcements. They always start with crime.
Some community announcements that we have going on, and we'll be hearing from MPD. We'll also hear from the mayor's office, Councilmember Pinto's office. We will have DC School Board Representative Alistair Chang addressing us this evening. We have a local event that impacts the community, or local activity, a request. We have 2 ABRA licenses this evening. We are going to talk about the 11th Street Northwest Bus Priority Project, and end the meeting by discussing 3 zoning, planning, zoning, environment, and historic preservation issues, which you see on our screen this evening. Are there any other items that commissioners that need to be added to the agenda, or corrections to the agenda?
Michael,
sorry.
I don't have anything. I know that last time you sent an email to the district attorney to invite him to join our call. Did he respond?
He did not respond, and I followed up with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
But thank you for asking.
I would make a motion to approve this agenda.
And I will second that. And all the commissioners that are in favor of that, will you please raise your hand?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. We are correcting our minute issue that we've had with the development of minutes. That will all be corrected by our next meeting, our August 11th meeting, for sure. It is in progress.
Sorry, August 8th, right?
August 8th. I'm sorry, August 8th meeting. Yes, I did it again. August 8th. I will get that right. You keep reminding me. August 8th meeting as well. Our treasurer's report, Commissioner Lee.
Yes, we have $69,358.44 in the bank, and we also have this past month we spent. I think 3 checks went through, and they are for minutes. $250. Wait 1 second. Oh, here it is. We spent $500, $750, and I believe $250 all together. 3 checks went to Minutes Services LLC to pay them for transcribing our minutes for us.
So those were
And there were there was no deposits this month.
great. Thank you. And those were for minutes that were previously produced and supplied to us. So we are correcting our issue that we've had with getting our minutes developed. And again, that will be done at our next meeting. And I understand, are you able to, do we have to file a Q2 report?
Yes, a Q2 report simply requires us to sign off on the invoices that were paid in Q2 and then for me to upload the invoices into this portal that the city uses. So I will send out those documents out for everyone to review and e-sign after the meeting.
Great. And the only items for Q2 were the 3-minute preparations that we have that we wrote checks for.
So Q2 is it requires 1 check. They require an invoice for one of those one of the invoices for one of the checks for Minutes LLC, and then the $50 security fund, which they have not cashed yet, as I was told by the auditor.
Got it. And there were no deposits during that time.
No deposits. They're waiting on us to file our Q3, which we cannot do until the auditor's office gives us a patch, as opposed because I was told that the software that they were supposed to push out to us has not been fully vetted by the city. So once we file Q3, which I have all the invoices for, then we'll get a new deposit.
Great. Okay. Awesome. Would you like to make a motion regarding the filing of Q2 so that we can approve that?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the Q2 filing of our treasurer's report.
And I will, Commissioner Rowe is seconding.
I'm seconding that.
And all those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that.
And we appear to have a question.
Yes, we do have a question on the floor. And Nancy, hi, how are you doing this evening?
Good. Just a clarifying question. Now that we are getting minutes produced, how do we in the public access them? There doesn't seem to be a link on the ANC 2C website. Is there? How does that even work? I am new. I don't know.
Yep, great question. They will be on the ANC 2C website for people to be able to download. In addition to our minute issue and the preparation of our minutes, we also had a technical glitch in which we lost some minutes that were linked there that will be relinked shortly to the site for they were minutes that were produced in the fall, this fall of last year, as well as the early spring minutes of that year. So they will all be going back on the site within the next week. Thank you for that question. We will move forward with our community events that impact the community. We have, our community announcements, forgive me, moving forward with our community announcements this evening. I would like to remind folks that during the presentations this evening, please remain on mute or with your microphone silenced. If you wish to ask a question, you may certainly raise your hand. If that feature does not work for whatever reason, you may ask to address the speaker. We are going to be expeditious this evening in our meeting. We have to really get back to having meetings that are under under 3 hours in length. And the reason being is that we are going to be returning to some in-person meetings starting in the fall. So just letting people know that that will be happening. I would like to first invite MPD 2. Do we have Lieutenant Garvin with us this evening, or someone from MPD 2?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Mr. Schenkel?
Awesome. Very well. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Good evening to everyone. I will try to be as brief as possible. I know we're on a time frame. So I'll start. We had a robbery on last night. Individual was actually on a motorcycle, got off the motorcycle, pointed a handgun, and made an attempt to rob an individual, got back on his dirt bike, and he fled. This also occurred actually in the 3rd district. So they were kind of going back and forth from the 2nd and 3rd district. We do have a BOLO lookout for these individuals, and the case is currently being investigated by our carjacking task force.
Did they take the bike, or were they?
No.
Oh, they were stealing items. He was on a bike.
Yes, he was on a bike. So he got off the bike, yes, and approached the individual.
Got it.
What was the location, Professor Garvin? Sorry.
The 1400
Officer
block, the 1400 block of New York Avenue.
Okay.
It occurred around 7:43 p.m. Sorry. So we had a 1st-degree sex abuse, which actually occurred on July the 8th, around 3 o'clock in the morning. C1 reported that S1 and S2 engaged in an unwanted forced sexual act. This occurred in the 1000 block of 14th Street, and this case is actually being investigated by a sexual assault unit. We had another sex abuse event in the 900 block of I Street Northwest on June the 15th. C1 reported that S1 engaged in a sexual act with her, which was unwanted due to her inability to decline participation. This case is also, we actually have legs with this case. It's been investigated by our sexual assault unit as well, because these are adult victims in these cases. We had a burglary arrest in the 900 block of 14th Street. We had 3 individuals in the back of an establishment. They were seen looking inside the windows. When approached by our members, we were able to apprehend 2 of them. One of them made good of his escape. And this occurred on June the 28th around 01:52 hours. Next up, we had three robberies. Let me go. And it was like pattern robberies. 700 block of 12th Street, 700 block of 13th Street, and 1100 block of 17th Street. And these occurred around 0300 hours. And what we've noticed is this is usually during our club nights. Individuals who are leaving these establishments are being targeted by these suspects. So now we've kind of adjusted our deployment a little bit. Instead of actually being in front of these establishments to watch crowd control, we have people now just on the outer perimeters, monitoring the alleys and things of that nature, because we're seeing a pickup in people. Once they leave the club, they might go a couple of blocks up, a couple of blocks west, and people are looking to rob them. Some of the patrons come out there a little intoxicated. Their awareness is not really there, and unfortunately, they make soft targets.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a robbery arrest in the 700 block of 12th Street, which occurred on June 13th. and we had a total of 4 weapon recoveries in the last 30 days. That's all I have.
Is that a higher number of weapons than you normally recover in a like a month period?
I wouldn't say higher.
Okay.
We do get a lot of weapons. Individuals leave out their vehicles, and the weapons are pretty much in plain view. At times we, wait till those individuals come back to their cars to see if they have the appropriate credentials. If they do not have those credentials, then we have probable cause to make the arrest. So we get a lot of weapons that way. We have individuals that go to some of these nightclubs. They patronize them. They're coming from different parts of the city, depending on what's going on. And some do carry weapons. As they don't know, I'm assuming they don't know who they're going to make contact with when they come into these establishments. So they do come armed a lot of times. Some of these venues do have security, so they can't come in because they're being checked. So they leave them in their cars, accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And Secret Service is also, they do assist us with gun recoveries as well, specifically during the nights where our clubs are open. Majority of the time it's Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Commissioners, do you have any additional questions for Lieutenant Garvin? Commissioner Rowe.
Yes, just had a quick question. I live at 1010 Massachusetts Avenue, and I understand there was an issue this past weekend where a young lady was just walking down the street in the Saturday morning, and somebody tried to grab her purse, and they arrested the person. Is that something? I guess my question is there advice that you can give people to be careful, how to protect themselves from something like that? Apparently there was police right there, and they apprehended the suspect immediately with a zip tie. But I was just wondering if that's something that you're seeing a pattern of muggings of that kind.
I wouldn't say a pattern, but I think we should stay visible. We do have some of our homeless population in these areas, and some do engage in criminal activity with purse snatches and things of that nature. I don't want to advise anybody to operate in fear,
No, of course.
but just be visible. Be vigilant where you're walking. Doesn't matter. At one time, only crime happened at night, but now it could be 10 o'clock in the morning, noon. You're out going to brunch. You're going out, just kind of keep everything close to you. I tell people, try not to walk with their cell phones in their hand. We see it time and time again. Individuals coming from behind, snatch the phone, and they run. You can't even identify the person. All you see is the back of their clothing, so
Right.
just stay vigilant.
Thank you. I know that it's that time of year where that's going to probably be a little bit more frequent. So I thought it was good to hear what the things are we can do to protect ourselves. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Officer, is the district attorney charging these individuals, or is the district attorney allowing these individuals to go off?
I would say half and half. We do see individuals who are charged, and we also see, it depends on if they're first timers. Sometimes they get a little bit more leniency if they don't have any type of violent history. So it's just one of those things, case by case basis. Mr. Lee.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments and your feedback this evening. I want to switch over. Do any community members have any questions for Lieutenant Garvin? Awesome. All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Garvin. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The work that you're doing. Thank you. I see we have Captain Roth on from MPT2.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm Lieutenant
MTV1,
Nicely.
MTV1. Sorry, I got it right.
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Nicely. Captain Roth is
Oh,
actually an active
nicely.
commander.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
No,
Sorry.
everyone thinks we're the same person. It's okay.
They do look alike a little.
We do favor each other. But
He
yeah,
was
he's the acting commander, so I'm covering down today. But for people that don't know me, I am the PSA 101 lieutenant right there in the heart of Chinatown. Captain Roth and I work pretty hand in hand on everything. So without further ado, I'll just run through. I want to mention the property crime stats for that PSA 101. Up first, there's an overall in property crime, there's a 9% increase right now on PSA 101. That is being driven largely by the motor vehicle thefts that everyone's been hearing so much about. That's against the fact that we actually have a 28% reduction in regular theft, in the retail theft and all the problems that we were seeing earlier in the year in Chinatown. We've gotten that down this past month by 30%. So that's just how bad this motor vehicle theft problem is with the hop-ins of the delivery drivers and all these things on H Street. So that's where our problem lies there. We did have 2 burglaries this last month, which was unique. We did not see a burglary in the previous couple of months. Those burglaries seem to be associated with a growing trend in all of the first district where people are leaving their apartment doors unsecured, their residential doors, and people are getting unauthorized access into buildings and just trying for open handles when people aren't home. So we need to figure out a plan about that. But other than that, the thefts are at least improving. We've seen a lot of remedy there. Moving to our violent crimes, we have a 20% reduction this past 30 days in our robberies. So that was good. We did, however, have 2 ADWs, assault with dangerous weapons, and we had 1 homicide in the 600 block of I Street. I can dig into that a little bit more in a moment, but I want to talk about those robberies really quick. All of the 101 robberies, for the most part, are late night events. About half of them are happening between 2 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the morning. 3 of them have been either with weapons brandished or the threat of a weapon. One of them involved just a foursome violence. Someone was struck in the head with a bottle, and then the suspect went through their pockets. None of them appear to be a pattern linked to each other. The lookouts are all quite different. And at this point, we have some photo evidence out. We're trying to get some bolos to identify these suspects. So it is moving forward, but we do not have suspects identified in any of those 4. The 2 ADWs, one of them was a domestic. So we know who the suspect is. They struck a significant other in the head with a glass bottle during what was probably an intoxicated argument, and the person sustained some injuries and I think a laceration from the glass that was somewhat significant, but that person's stable and will be okay. The other ADW was an actual shooting that happened at 504 K Street on July 8th. That's the 7-Eleven. This again happened at 1 o'clock in the morning. 2 individuals that apparently know each other from the surveillance video. They came in together. They got into an argument. The security guard, the special police officer, removed them from the establishment. The fight escalated out front. One person pulled out a gun and shot the other person 1 time and fled the scene. And our complainant is refusing to cooperate and help us. So right now we're kind of at a dead end with that shooting case, unless the complainant changes their mind and cooperates. And then to get back to that homicide, that happened on June 19th. It happened at 5 o'clock in the morning, I believe. Yeah, 5 a.m. in the 600 block of I Street. We have a person identified, a person of interest. Well, we know this person of interest and what they look like. We are working on getting their identity confirmed. We don't know their true name yet, but we do know we loosely know who the perpetrator is from some video and from I believe like a street name, like a nickname. So we're hoping that we're going to get some legs to that and be able to come up with a closure in that relatively soon. And yeah, I think that's all I have. I can dig in anything a little bit more if anybody has some specific questions about any strategies going on in Chinatown.
Thank you very much for that. In the shooting that happened, were they known to each other? The people that you know of, or
you're talking about the homicide or the shooting?
Homicide? Yes, the homicide. I'm sorry.
So I don't want to speak too much out of pocket without the detective's permission, but I'll say this: it's a reasonable assumption that the suspect was perhaps involved in some less than savory activities in that time of night, and we're assuming that the victim is either a patron or an associate of that person.
Got it.
But that is a very I'm going out on a limb a little bit by saying that.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not 100% confirmed until we get this identity figured out. But I would say there's at least it was not a random stranger. We'll say that.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Not that it makes it any better, but I do appreciate what you were able to provide us in this situation. Commissioner Lee or Rowe, do you have questions for the? Were you sergeant? I'm sorry, or were you lieutenant? I'm sorry. I'm bad.
Lieutenant Nicely.
The Lieutenant Nicely. Okay, gotcha.
I don't have any specific questions. I know that there are some community members who had some questions. So.
Got you. So I see a hand. Is it Kasha? Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, right, yeah. Yes, Kasha Kazachik.
Okay, gotcha.
Hi, I just recently moved to 777 7th Street. And my question was, and thank you, Lieutenant Nicely. The question I had is, I've noticed a lot of people either smoking marijuana or smoking some other sort of drugs around the residence. And so I was wondering if there was anything that can be done about that.
Yeah, it's a complicated answer to your question. A lot of times, Captain Roth and I have been going out to a lot of the community members with the bid, and we're trying to explain to people we have limited resources, right? So when I deploy officers to Chinatown, the gallery place I think you're talking about, I have to make a tough decision about what gets enforced. Because if I tell an officer to make an arrest for someone smoking marijuana, which potentially could happen, then that officer comes back to process. And then that's hard for me to justify if the result of that is a loss of posture and then people get robbed or shot after that, right? So I have very, very limited resources in terms of people, in terms of manpower. And so we try to balance that. And there are days where we do not have the capacity where I think I can justify telling them to enforce the open containers and the public consumption of marijuana. So I think you said you've recently been there. I would hope that if you maybe hear from some people that have been dealing with this problem for a little bit longer, that it was worse and we go through waves, but I think that it is getting better because we have increased that enforcement a lot. And we've gotten a lot of help from our Chinatown officers, who, by the way, I'll just tell everybody, our Chinatown officers, Officer Wong and Officer Davis, they were up there enforcing some quality of life issues last month. And both of them got hurt and have been out of work. So we haven't had them because they've been injured from a use of force incident, arresting a dude over an open container of alcohol. And they're going to be fine and they'll be back to work eventually, but it was significant enough that they've been out for weeks. So like, that's the risk right there. That's a classic risk where I lost their help up there dealing with some of these issues for 2 or 3 weeks. And they were, that sacrifice was over someone who was, drinking and couldn't correct their behavior out in public. So, it's a hard thing for me to manage. I'm doing the best I can about not letting that little stuff go when it's egregious. But by the same time, like, I'm worried about these 4 robberies. I'm worried about those 2 shootings that happened. There's not a lot I can do about that domestic ADW, from a police perspective, but I'm trying to play defense on both sides of the court on that. So, it will be addressed as much as I can address it. I guess that's my answer in a nutshell.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I actually did have a quick question. I'm sorry. I know I'm out of order here and I apologize. But Lieutenant Nicely, and maybe Lieutenant Garvin can weigh in on this too. Do you all see a connection between these quality of life issues and the more serious crimes? Because I know that that's something that the quality of life issues, I think, are the day-to-day things that bother our constituents. And not that the big crimes don't, but maybe they're not necessarily personally impacted by them. I was just curious about that because I know we were asked a number of questions via email about the strategies for crime in the area and whether these smaller crimes are leading to the bigger crimes or related. I don't know if I asked that coherently at all. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, well, I'll speak for it in terms of particularly the success we've seen in like the 600 block of H Street, Gallery Place area. We have ramped up the we have ramped up the enforcement of certain quality of life things, the public consumption of marijuana, the urinating in public, the open containers of alcohol. I think that is contributing to a reduction in our thefts, because a lot of times those people are definitely the same people that are then running into the local businesses and stealing committing all those retail crimes right there in that particular block I'm talking about. And then I also think that it just creates a good visibility presence where someone who is maybe contemplating a robbery in the area sees some level of enforcement. And I think it does take away a little bit of the brazenness. And I think that, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable saying that, those 2 Chinatown officers were hurt, enforcing that one incident, and then they were gone. And then those robberies I had a robbery on the 17th, 18th, and 19th that coincides perfectly when they were up there not enforcing quality of life because they were out there. So I feel like that's a reasonable thing to say, that quality of life stuff does contribute, but we have to strike that balance between, criminals recognizing, hey, those officers aren't out here anymore because they're busy doing paperwork, and then, okay, the officers are out here seriously. So I can't pull every resource to go make a single arrest, but it's stopping what we want.
I think we lost your audio there, but I did understand you're trying to strike the balance between this more serious crimes and first of all, I hope the officers are going to be fine and be back soon. And thank you very much for the answer and for your vigilance in Chinatown and in the First District overall. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Nicely. I really appreciate you being here tonight. And I will say that it was only because I had the little Zoom box that I called you by the wrong name and not Captain Roth. I called you Captain Roth. As soon as you lit up on my screen, I was like, oh, that's not Captain Roth. So thank you very much for being here. And please send our well wishes to the officers who were injured, because we know how dangerous your job is and in moving forward with things like that. So I appreciate it.
I will tell them, and hopefully they'll be back out next week.
Awesome. That's excellent. Excellent. I would like to move forward with the mayor's office for Ward 2, Christopher Powell.
Everyone, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we gotcha.
All right, perfect. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Well, if you don't know me, I am Christopher Powell, Ward 2 liaison from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. And I'll just give a few quick updates for you guys tonight. First one, just a quick reminder, there are resources for you to prepare to weatherize for the summer and continue to throughout the summer. So Summer Ready DC campaign will help provide DC residents with the tools and resources to make their homes more energy efficient and help reduce their monthly energy bills during the campaign. You guys can register to pick up free weatherization energy efficient items at DC public libraries. You can also sign up for utility assistance and get help and checklists with weatherizing your homes. And you can contact the Office of Consumer Services at 202-626-5120 for more information on that, or reach out to me and I can send you information. And then also the Department of Employment Services just wants to encourage residents to apply for the Mayor's Opportunity Scholarship. The deadline's coming up here on July 17th. But we've got about 75 scholarships, around $2,000 each for young adults ages 18 through 24. If you do qualify, there are some prerequisites here, but everyone is encouraged to apply. And then just a quick reminder, obviously, public safety is number one right now for everyone, top of mind. So you can anonymously report any guns, or if you found a gun, at 202-727-9099 or text 50411. And those are rewards from $1,000 to $5,000 depending on the result. Just a recap, I believe I mentioned this last meeting, but new appointments, we have Richard Livingston is my new boss, old Ward 2 Moker, and we still have Sean Benedict as our current interim police chief. Some upcoming events, there's going to be a town hall coming up here. We've got the Deputy Mayor of Education is hosting a virtual town hall meeting to provide feedback on the master facilities plan, the initiatives, as well as ongoing boundary and student assignment study. Will provide strategic data-informed recommendations to ensure more students have equitable access to great boundary and citywide school and modern, well-maintained facilities. So that's coming up here on the 12th and the 13th. You can sign up for those. And then we've got a roll-off day hosted by the Mayor's Office of Clean City. That's coming up on Saturday, July 22nd at 10 a.m. So if you have bulk trash, items, electronics, you can bring it down to North Michigan Park Recreation Center for free, but space is limited, so you should RSVP to that as well. And then on a lighter note, and nearby in Chinatown Park, Mayor's Office of Asian Pacific Islander Affairs is hosting K-pop dance series all month. So on the 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th at 12 p.m. in Chinatown Park, there'll be some cool K-pop dance series. There'll be music and lessons so you can learn to dance or just come and watch. And also, if you guys want to speak with us or interact with the Mokers more intimately, we can schedule like a walk around the neighborhood or coffee, talk about any issues you might have, or you can point out any infrastructure flaws that you might have noticed. And then that's me and my partner Grace's information here. And that'll about do it for me. I know you guys have a long night, so if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Commissioner Lee, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Christopher, Mr. Powell, I noted that you mentioned the community walks, and if we wanted to point out any infrastructure deficiencies, could I point out the planters along 7th Street in Chinatown, as well as the trash bins in Chinatown? I mean, I don't think there's enough of them, and the ones that are there need a serious cleaning, or just new trash bins. Is that something that the mayor's office could help the community with?
Thank you.
I can flag that. I know it's sort of a tricky situation with some of the public space versus private space when you come to those flower planter boxes, and then you also are involving the bid, which generally has agency over those. But it is something that I can flag internally to DPW, maybe DDOT, and then also loop in the bid.
Yes, please.
Just something I've also noticed as well.
Yeah.
So, but if you have any, I know what you're talking about, but if you have anything specific you want to send me, I can go get pictures, or if you want to send me pictures, I can.
Right. Thank you.
Commissioner, are you talking about like the big plastic ones? Like the very large planters that are round?
No, I'm talking about just like the planters on the sidewalk with the metal rails and the metal railings, and all the metal railings are all bent out of shape. They're,
gotcha.
They're a tripping hazard, and the soil condition where the trees sit, I mean, they're all full of rat holes, and it's just not very attractive. And I've been told that a lot of the dealers, they tend to hide their stash inside those holes. And I believe, I'm not sure the officer is still a part of this conversation, but I've been told that the police would like to get rid of them as well, because they're such a public hazard.
Got it. We also have a community member's hand up, Mr. Marks.
Yes, thank you so much, Commissioner Schenkel. Good news about moving the future meetings in the fall to on-site location. I think that Zoom has its limitations. So much business occurs when we meet our neighbors and work out strategies when we see them face to face. So I'm really excited about the announcement you made tonight, that you will be soon moving back, at least on a hybrid basis, to virtual meetings and in-person meetings. So my question to Christopher is, we here in Chinatown, as you heard earlier from a resident of our building, the residents of Galler Place, are suffering mightily because of the open-air drug market in the Chinatown metro station, the north end of the station on H. And that spills over to the businesses, the Chinese restaurants that have meant so much to our community. All the way from 5th to 7th on H. We want to establish better liaison with the office of the Mayor's Office of Asian and Pacific Affairs. Christopher, we need your help. They have been totally unresponsive in forming an alliance here in Chinatown to beat back these drug dealers. I have no idea why they're not returning my phone calls or messages or anything. They seem to be not interested. This can't be right. This is not in keeping with, I'm sure, what the mayor's orders are. Could you help us bring us together with the Office of Asian and Pacific Affairs to have a serious conversation about these crime issues we're facing? Thank you.
Yes, I'd love to. I know there's a number of conversations going on, a lot behind the scenes, different business owners, stakeholders as well. I'm happy to try to loop you guys in if that's a conversation you want to be a part of. I know personally, a good friend of mine recently closed his business over there, right across the street from, well, he moved technically, but, right across the street from the arena. And that's a great place to have any business. But the neighborhood is suffering from a number of issues that have been compounded by COVID. So you have just like, these variables that are being made worse and worse. But
Christopher, are you referring to burgers?
Yeah, Eat Burgs. That's correct. But I can definitely keep you in the loop, and I can, if you want to message me on the side, I can.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Thank you so much.
With Moapia.
I think I'll do that right now. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
We have one more hand up. Is it Amir?
Yeah, hi. I am a resident as well of 1010 Mass, and I had just a question for Christopher about what we can do to expedite if there is junk or material that is left over, everything from items that are in the middle of the street. Recently, this week, we had a piece of scaffolding that straddled 2 lanes of 11th Street, and I personally witnessed more than one vehicle hit it and then stop. It's now been pushed into the bike lane. I've called 311 and have a reference number, and I've twice been told it's going to be picked up that day, and it still remains there. And along the same vein, there is a number of, pieces that belong to the homeless community, but are piled up around Massachusetts Avenue. That's not their personal belongings, but just pieces of garbage and trash. And I've asked, again, 311 and have received confirmation numbers, but week after week, nothing gets picked up or touched, but I'm told that something is going to be done. And I was curious what else I can do first for the ones that are obviously like vehicular hazards in the middle of the street, then to those that are impeding constituents from walking on sidewalks.
Hey, yes, I would encourage you to just flag that to me immediately. I can additionally put in a 311 request, but contact my core team and let them know if there's a situation like that, especially if it's obstructing traffic or the public way. We want to get on that on top as quick as possible. So I can, can't really expedite anything, but I can sort of encourage them of the urgency of the matter.
Put a little star next to it that has,
a little
fantastic.
mayor's office asterisk. I know even last week, my director sent me a photo of a construction truck bed that had fallen off into the road. So it's just one of those things where it looks like whatever, just like a piece of metal, but someone's got to come get that before it becomes a bigger problem. So I'm happy to help on those things, big and little, depending on what it is. I've tried to flag a lot of the trash in Chinatown. I know our unhomed residents keep their belongings in bags, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate whether that's trash or personal property. And you don't want to infringe on them, but you also don't want trash bags on the sidewalk and rats. And so you're kind of stuck in the middle. Even, right outside of MLK Library, I can show you a massive email chain just on the bags of trash and, what is that person coming back? All these things you get caught up in. But it is difficult, but we can try. So let me know and we'll try.
Christopher, excuse me, Howard Marks here. I can't message you through the system for some reason. What is your email address?
It is christopher.powell2@dc.gov. I will put all my contact information in the chat in one second.
Thank you.
I will, is anybody from the bed on the call this evening, on the meeting this evening? I've been looking for their after hours number or to put in the chat, and I can't put my finger on it at the moment, but I will send that out as well. If there's immediate issues like scaffolding in the street, the bid may be another option for us as well. And our final comment this evening will be from Eric Martin.
Yes, thank you very much for recognizing me. My wife and I have lived in the Clara Barton and Lafayette complex for about a year, but we've noticed in recent weeks a significant increase in the vagrancy on the block of the corner of 7th and E. It seems we're not going out doing anything unusual. I mean, this is 9 p.m. Last night on a Monday night, and we were verbally attacked by one of the people who lives on the street. We've noticed that people who are living on that corner or in the area have taken up camp on the outdoor furniture of Gregory's Coffee that gets left out overnight and either urinating or defecating or otherwise defacing the furniture, as well as camping out on the northeast corner of 7th and E, and sometimes taking drugs. And this is our first ANC meeting, and the reason that we came was because we were just really alarmed by the increase that we've seen. And I don't know whether there's actually any kind of statistical increase, but our perception, anecdotally at least, is that this problem has gotten worse. And I don't know whether there's anything that can be done in terms of police patrols, or if we have somebody verbally attacking us, whether we should call the police on that person. But on the other hand, these people, they live on the street. They're, in some practical sense, our neighbors, and would recognize us if we did report something. So I don't know what is the suggested course of action or what can be done to give more attention to that particular area. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Christopher, do you have a...
Yes, I mean, fundamentally, I would encourage you to not be afraid to call the police.
Yeah.
At least, you're not crying wolf if someone is, verbally or physically assaulting you. You can, at minimum, have a record of the incident, and then that will set you up to maybe potentially file a barring notice, which can be very helpful. If there is any actual encampments, you can let me know, and I can report those. I can flag those up pretty quickly. The DMHHS team is actually very responsive, very good at making contact, reaching out to them, and helping relocate them if they are actually not allowed to be on that space. So yeah, you can shoot me an email if you have concerns, but also definitely file a report.
Okay, Christopher, could you share, I apologize, we missed the beginning of the call due to work conflict. Can you share one more time your email address, please?
Yeah. Hey, Michael, can I send you the message
Yes.
and you put it in public chat? Is that how?
I will. Yes, I will be happy to do that.
Okay.
Or for the
I'm
other
gonna put it
commissioners.
in the chat right now.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
can. And just a comment, Mr. Martin, do you know if the furniture at Gregory's Coffee is secured in the evening?
It's not secured, and it's neither is it secured nor is it removed, and so that presents the opportunity to to use it as a kind of a makeshift sofa or other kind of living room or otherwise livable furniture.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that feedback. Yes, and I would totally agree with Mr. Powell. If you feel threatened or in any, feel like you're unsafe at any time, please call the police. That's what they are here to do, to mitigate issues. And if other services are needed, the police can also summon those services for us as well. But thank you for highlighting that issue. Thank you, Christopher. We appreciate you. I'm going to quickly copy Christopher's information into the chat for everyone so that you can have that information available for you. I believe that went out to everybody. Thanks so much, Christopher, and we will talk with you soon. Next, we'll move on to the office of Ward 2 Councilmember Pinto's office. Is Pablo with us this evening?
Hi, how's everybody doing? Can I go ahead and share my screen as well?
Certainly may.
Perfect. Let me get that going. All right, everybody able to see that there?
Yes.
Great. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So just wanted to share a few photos from a recent site visit that we held at Thompson Elementary with Councilmember Louis George. Christopher Powell was there as well, DCPS and DGS to tour the school and ensure that all the necessary maintenance is completed this summer before the upcoming school year begins. Also wanted to share that now that the fiscal year 24 budget was finally passed, we're really excited about all of the great funding that's been secured for 2C's needs, some of which are listed here in this graphic, which you can also find on our website and I believe on our social media as well. And Councilmember Pinto recently passed her 3-year mark as council member in Ward 2. And here are just some of those 3 years by the numbers if anyone wanted to take a look at some of these. Now moving on to the topic of the day. As Judiciary and Public Safety Committee Chair, Councilmember Pinto is thinking about how to improve public safety every day. And recently the committee held a public hearing on Mayor Bowser's proposed Safer, Stronger DC bill, where we had over 170 public witnesses testify, and the hearing went almost until midnight. So I do want to give a quick shout out to our committee staff that were working really hard that day to get through that marathon hearing, and to all of you that may have come out to give your testimony or submitted written testimony. We really appreciate all that feedback that we received. And as the DC has put it, the bill has sparked a lot of debate, but there was agreement that violence in DC is at an unacceptable level. And Councilmember Pinto did use a lot of the feedback that we received during the hearing for this bill to craft the Prioritizing Public Safety Amendment Act. This emergency bill passed in the council today and almost unanimously, and will help to address public safety immediately in the district for the summer. She's also introduced 3 other new bills to improve public safety. One is the Accountability and Victim Protections Act, which was developed in partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office and aims to address gaps in the legal system, ensure accountability for offenders, support victims, and keep guns out of the hands of people who may pose a threat to the community. The second bill is the Metro Safety Act, which will better allow WMATA to enforce civil penalties for fare evasion. And we're also working on making it easier for young people to access the Kids Ride Free program to make sure that, any students who we may have heard from that say that they're having trouble fully getting access to that program, which they're entitled to, we want to make that as easy for them to access as possible, to ensure that, no youth are being targeted for fare evasion unfairly, especially when they have this great program available to them that we want to make sure they have access to. Now, the third bill aims to address the serious errors, at the Office of Unified Communications, which handles 911 and 311 calls. This act will provide the public with more information on OUC's operations, their efficacy, and their accuracy to increase public trust in the agency and the work they do. Now, I do want to give a special thanks to a lot of you all here in 2C who have been asking for us to have an event like this, and I did want to share that Councilmember Pinto will be hosting a Chinatown public safety meeting on August 3rd at 6 p.m. in the MLK Library. We don't have all the details ironed out yet, but I did want to let you all know now, but keep an eye out for an announcement in our newsletter or on social media for that. Again, that'll be August 3rd at the MLK Library, and hopefully we'll be giving out some more details publicly shortly, but wanted to share that news with you all here now. Now for some upcoming events this week, we'll be holding some office hours events around the ward this month. If you'd like to talk to the council member in person, the two most upcoming ones are tomorrow in Shaw at Compass Coffee, which will be from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and on Friday at Francis Pool from 3:30 to 5 p.m. So if anybody is interested, feel free to come out. We'd love to see you there. And you can also RSVP on our website or just show up. No worries. The RSVP is a bit helpful for us to keep it organized, but if you're not quite sure if you're going to be able to make it or not, no worries. You can just show up without the RSVP. Now, as we close out Pride Month, I also wanted to mention that Councilmember Pinto introduced some new legislation to waive city fees for the Capitol Pride Parade going forward. This is a major hurdle for Capitol Pride each year. And as we get ready to host World Pride in 2025, we want to make sure that our DC values are known and that this event is as successful as possible and is made as easy as possible. She also introduced legislation to prevent insurers from discriminating against PrEP users, which is an HIV treatment and prevention. Finally, I wanted to give a few reminders. I know no one is thinking about snow right now, but the sidewalk shoveling exemption program application is now open. So for anyone 65 and older or with a health condition or impairment who wants to apply for the sidewalk shoveling exemption, that application is now open. And, we're only mentioning it this early because the application does close significantly before it starts to snow. So if that's something you'd be interested in, definitely go ahead and submit that as soon as you can. And I'll also go ahead and post any links that I have in the chat soon, and happy to take any questions as well.
The council member has been very busy, and we appreciate her efforts in a lot of these areas, especially the Pride fees in the city, which is awesome, and PrEP users, really great. Commissioner Rowe, I see your hand up. Sorry.
Yes, no, I was just rather than shouting. Hey, Pablo, how you doing? Thank you for your presentation. When you have the details on the August 3rd event, would you please make sure to send it to the 4 commissioners in ANC2C? I think we would all like to send it to our mailing lists, and maybe even Commissioner Schenkel publish it on our website, because this is probably the single largest issue that we as 2C commissioners are asked about. So want to make sure that our constituents have the opportunity to hear what Councilmember Pinto has to say and to speak on their concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll definitely send that to you because we'd love for you all to share that with any listservs you have as well.
Thank you.
Pablo, with the council passing the emergency legislation today, does the mayor have to sign that?
I believe the mayor does still have to sign it, but given which I anticipate that she will, we haven't heard anything to the contrary, but of course that could all change. But given that it passed 12-1, I believe there would be a 2/3 majority to override the veto regardless, but I'm pretty sure the mayor still has to sign it. The difference is it goes into effect immediately for, I believe, 90 days.
Correct.
without the congressional review.
Got it. Got it. I was just curious. I know that I've been watching the news and seeing the banter back and forth between the mayor and Chairman Mendelson, and I just was curious if you had any insight into that.
Yeah, I think there seems to be pretty wide support as far as I can tell from my position, which is not very high up, but
yeah. Okay, got it. Just checking. We have two hands. Oh, Commissioner Lee, go ahead, please.
A quick question: which council member voted against?
I believe it was Councilmember Louis George.
We have three hands up. We'll take these in order. First, we'll go to Mr. Marks.
Yeah, thank you for Pablo for your report. Just wanted to thank Councilmember Pinto for scheduling this August 3rd event. I think she calls it a roundtable or town meeting. In any event, it's very important that everyone on this call who is concerned about issues of the drug dealing in Chinatown show up at this hearing and testify. This is our opportunity, all of us, to have some influence and input on the city's response or non-response to what's happening under our eyes. Businesses closing, people, property values declining, people feeling unsafe at night. It's very important that we speak with a very loud voice coming up at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Howard. Yeah, we know you're one of the residents that's been asking for an event like this, so we really appreciate that input. And I'll echo his thoughts that anyone who feels passionate about this, please come along, and we want to hear what you have to say.
Can you reshare that date again, please?
Yes, let me make sure I've got it right here. August 3rd at the MLK Library. And I'll make sure to send out when we have the concrete details to the commissioners as well.
And we will post that and send that out to folks. Thank you. Former Commissioner Cluster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner Schenkel. Thank you, Pablo. In the same spirit of what Mr. Marks just said regarding the safety and well-being of the community, Pablo, could you please give us a brief update on what's happening with building a new prison at 501 New York Avenue in Ward 2? It's I don't think it's in this ANC, but it's right on the border. And when people are released from that facility, the first place they will wander down to, I'm sure, is Gallery Place Metro and join the activity there. So can you please tell us, I'm not even sure the commissioners have I've not heard them discuss this, so I don't even know if they know what's going on there.
Yeah.
So that's a great question. I don't have a robust update on the 501 New York Avenue location, but I believe MPD's plan is to use that location as a temporary holding facility. I'm not sure exactly how many people it would be, what the capacity would be there, but I know they're still working through those plans. And I know that's something Brian has given an update on at the 2G ANC meeting. So I could try to check in with him and have a more robust update for next month for sure to share with you all on that project.
Yeah, I think this ANC needs a full briefing on what's going on there, because it will have a major impact on this community.
I'll definitely make sure to give an update on that at our next month's meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
To my understanding, that just from what I know at this point, that there are holding locations, centers throughout the city that MPD utilizes. And this is one location that will be temporarily utilized while I believe renovations are happening with the other facility. That is my understanding at this point, but I think we'll ask for that we can get an update at our next meeting. Thank you. And then we have Mr. Martin.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask a community health question with regard to COVID. Obviously, the national federal emergency in COVID was ended in May. My wife and I have noted that there's been a big drop off in the number of minute clinics and other offices, it seems, in downtown DC that will apply, for example, PCR tests. I know we're members of One Medical, and One Medical has now basically outsourced all of their PCR testing to Chevy Chase, Maryland, which is a long way to go if somebody is not feeling well. I just didn't know if anybody who is in this meeting might happen to know of any other facilities, that are closer than that are still offering not rapid testing but PCR testing. Thank you.
I don't know of any personally. I know it was really unfortunate when that federal funding ran out, and the COVID centers that we had previously, there was one really, close by to you all, I'm sure, that I benefited from quite a bit myself when it was open, and, we were sad to see that close down. And, we've been in talks to see if there's any other possibilities for what we can do to have kept those sites open for longer, but without that federal funding, it was just really difficult to keep that going. But if anybody knows of any other PCR testing locations that are closer to here, please feel free to chime in.
I mean, the only ones I know of are the Same Day Health, the privately held ones, one in Georgetown, and I think there's one on Capitol Hill. But I don't even know if they're continuing to do PCR testing. Those are just the places that I went prior to there being a federally funded place. So sorry about that. I don't have any better details. There is the CVS Minute Clinic. I don't know if they do PCR testing, but the one on 6th and it's like 6th and Massachusetts East. It's sort of, I don't know though if they do the testing, so sorry.
Yes, I don't have a good answer for you either, but we can certainly look into that and make sure that we have that posted for people to have access to that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I was at a conference of a large international institution today, and one of the people gave their intervention virtually because they were quarantined sick with COVID. And so it was just a reminder that, unfortunately, it's not, it's not over in terms of potential contagion and illness.
Definitely not over. Working in an infectious disease practice and primary care practice, see it all the time. Definitely not over. Thank you very much, Pablo. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Next up, we have DC School Board Representative Alistair Chang. Alistair, are you on?
Good evening, everybody.
All right. Hey, how you doing?
Doing all right, thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me with you all, and good to see everybody tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to update you on what I've been working on the DC SBOE. So my top priority on the board, and Commissioner Schenkel and others, you've heard me say this, is to advance literacy. If you haven't learned to read, you can't read to learn. And right now, only 26% of our fourth graders are reading proficiently by fourth grade, which means 74% of DC students are not reading proficiently by fourth grade. And that is has worsened since the pandemic. I am thinking here an op-ed, and Commissioner Schenkel, I'll send this to you, that I wrote with our superintendent, Dr. Grant, about why prioritizing literacy is so crucial to be helping DC students recover from the pandemic and beyond. And last year, I got to work with our council member to set up a process for DC to create a structured literacy action plan. I now represent the DC SBOE on OSCE's Literacy Task Force, and we will be coming together as various education agencies across the city to develop a shared plan by the end of September. So I'd particularly appreciate the opportunity to come back and share that plan with you and to get your help to make sure that we execute it with fidelity. I'm also have been convening a group of literacy experts and practitioners once a month to make sure that I'm advocating for the most effective literacy-related policies, including researchers and educators and families and students as well. And the next meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m. If you know any reading instructors or families who would like to get involved, I would love their input, and particularly right now thinking about how to set up on-the-job support for reading instructors properly and how DC develops its list of recommended literacy curricula. On a non-literacy related update from the DC SBOE, the main piece of work that we've been taking on and off really for the last 2 years has been updating our social studies standards. And we as a board voted unanimously to pass and approve our revised social studies standards on June 21st. And these are going to start for students in 2024. And some things I'm really proud of about that. We are really thoughtful, and I particularly appreciate the feedback that we got from school librarians about making sure that we are incorporating historiography early on, teaching the distinction between primary sources and secondary sources and fact from opinion, as well as including more DC history, and very proud we're also have much more local, not only local history, but also LGBTQ and AAPI and other diverse voices represented and woven into social studies standards quite early on. So Commissioner Schenkel, one more thing to link here for you is my email, my newsletter link, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you or any of your neighbors have any questions about local education topics. I'd love to help where I can, and appreciate this chance to come back and update you about what I've been working on.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I appreciate all that information and all the work that you're doing for promoting literacy. Those numbers of the 26%, yikes, reading on grade level, that's very concerning. So
yeah, indeed.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, Mr. Chank, this is Thomas Lee. I have a daughter that I have two daughters that went to that one of them still goes to Thompson Elementary at 13th and L. I think we might have met once outside. The other one now goes to Basis, which is a block away from where we live. I know that from my wife and others in Thompson, one of the issues that's taking place at that school is that there's been some students have some behavioral issues and they're very disruptive, and as a result it burns up the teachers and it frustrates the other kids, and the other kids start acting out, and the kids are not learning in that type of environment, and it's very difficult for anyone to work out in that very stressful environment. As a result, we have her still in the school, but at the same time we also supplement her with evening classes online, which we're very fortunate to be able to do so, but many parents are not in that position. That said, I think that what DCPS really needs to do is figure out whether we could isolate or provide special attention to these children that are acting out, but in an environment where they're not impacting the kids that really do want to learn or can learn, so that there's not this this disruption is not spread out through the entire class, so that one kid may not be able to learn, but then the entire class is such that no one's learning as a result. So I'm not sure what you can do, but that's something that I think that had certain kids been able to been isolated or gotten special attention in a separate classroom. I think, the 80%, 90% of the other kids in that classroom would have been able to continue learning and we would not be having these statistics right now. That's
Yep.
my feedback.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is top of mind. I'll share a bit about what I've been learning about what we're working on, and would also appreciate your help and other commissioners' help to make sure that we are advocating properly for the resources to support this work. So it's been a massive problem, not only for DC, but for students across the country and across the world during the pandemic who have been isolated. And so we, as a city, actually have drastically increased funding for behavioral health for students. And when I was first looking into where we were spending the money, I was asking students, do you feel a difference? Do you feel the change in your day-to-day? And do you know what resources are now available to you? And was very worried that most of them were saying no after we had spent so much money. And digging into that and asking principals where that money went, it seems to have mostly been spent on a few very acute cases. And that is very, I think, appropriate, right? That, we need to be supporting our students who are too anxious to come to class, hospitalized, so that they can keep learning. The preventative work, however, right, and the work that I think more addresses the concerns that you're raising, are things that I think we are still in very much the pilot stages of. My favorite that I found after speaking with some pediatricians who have been working on mental health for students in DC for a long time, is that I'm excited about, that I would like to scale up, is called Healthy Futures. It is a consultative model and prepares our teachers to be able to, right, they're not learning a lot of this work in their Masters of Education coursework, right, around behavioral health. And so giving them the baseline information and knowledge from the clinicians around how we make sense of this and support those students properly and respond to some of the behavioral challenges that you're naming. So it's something I'm looking into. It's something that the board is looking into, and would love your updates on, whether or not the initiatives that we're actually taking on and investing in are making a difference in your day-to-day experience.
Thank you. Any other questions for Representative Chang? Go ahead, Commissioner Rowe.
Hi. Quick question, and I missed the very first minute of your presentation because my internet decided to boot me out of Zoom for a moment, but are you finding with these statistics on the reading at grade level that the schools in areas that are historically under-resourced are struggling the most with these test results? And are you all planning to address that?
Absolutely. So what the pandemic showed basically, well, especially when most kids were at home, right, the scores basically were a direct correlation with wealth of family. And so, I think, not to get too philosophical here to answer your question, Commissioner, but schools have been held more and more accountable to solve all poverty, right? It's where you get food for the family. It is more and more also where you access healthcare for the family. And they're not prepared to take that all on, right? And so, right, it's, I think, very much something that we have to get help outside of the education sector to solve. And so very much, I think, we are seeing some of the initiatives, for example, that I've seen are directly correlated or causal for increasing literacy outcomes are actually not direct education related investments, but more around making sure that that family has heat at home over the winter, and those kinds of interventions are so cross make such a sweeping difference across multiple sectors of work.
Thank you. No, I just for context, have volunteered for many years at a school in Ward 8, where, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, just getting food, just getting groceries was a struggle for many families, and hungry kids can't learn. So I just curious that I hadn't heard that part of it. So thank you. I just wanted to put that on the record, actually. Thank you.
Thanks for flagging that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And thank you, Representative Chang, for being here with us tonight. Appreciate you. See you soon.
Thanks.
You're always welcome back. And we look forward to hearing the updates as they evolve.
Thank you. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night. Next, we will move forward with local events that impact the community, and our Tech House Foundation requests for a letter of support for a DEMPED grant application. Do we have Tati with us?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Dear commissioners and community members, thank you for hosting me today and for the opportunity to present. Commissioner Schenkel, please let me know, I guess, the best way to go about this. Would you like me to introduce the project and then open up for questions?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, again. I'm here today to introduce an exciting project that we hope to bring to downtown DC, and specifically the ANC 2C district, through the recently, as Commissioner mentioned, announced DMPD grant for the fiscal year 23, the DC Family Fund Destinations. Through this grant, we're hoping to establish a permanent art space in downtown DC dedicated to art created through technology. This will be an extension to our current location in Southwest that has been in operation for the past 6 years in the portals next to the wharf. This particular space, however, will be operated as a non-for-profit and will house an extensive collection of works from the Arctic House Permanent Collection. For those of you who may not be familiar with Arctic House, over the past 6 years, we've been pioneering art, science, and technology exhibitions in the District of Columbia and across the US. We have locations in New York as well as in Miami, Florida, and our exhibitions have been exhibited in other parts of the US as well as abroad. We've been commissioning and showcasing the works of 21st century innovative artists that have captivated millions worldwide. And we have been looking into establishing a permanent home for our numerous artworks and installations that we've commissioned and accumulated over these years. And we see with this grant as an opportunity to expedite that. We have identified a few possible locations within your ANC district, specifically along the F Street corridor, and are in active discussions for possible uses. This dedicated art space will operate as a contemporary art museum. At the moment, probably on a somewhat smaller scale, but hopefully it's something that we can grow. It will feature installations from the best digital artists from around the world, providing residents and visitors opportunity to engage with contemporary art forms and fostering a greater appreciation for the arts. Through our works, we attract families, art enthusiasts, and tourists. We hope to drive foot traffic and benefit local businesses, residences, as well as shops. We hope to liven up the downtown DC. Additionally, we would like to see this space serve as a platform for local artists, and for us to be able to support local creatives and offer them opportunities to create work as well as exhibit their art and tech works, fostering creativity within our community. And as such, your support and endorsement would be invaluable in helping us realize this vision. I have shared, commissioners, with you a quick presentation on Arctic House with some visuals. If you'd like me, I'm happy to pull this up, or if you had an opportunity to review it, that's wonderful.
Yes, I had the opportunity to look through it, which is great. Totally awesome. This is a grant that you are requesting. Is it a single year or multi-year grant?
So the grant is a single-use grant. It can be used for events, or it can be used for more of a permanent establishments. We don't see the value of just doing an event. Having been in the DC art scene since 2009 and having done many events across the city, from being part of the founders of the Art All Night Festival to the Glow in Georgetown, we know the impact that they can create, and we put the value in that. However, we really believe in establishing permanent spaces, and we see that as a bigger driver for the community and also for the downtown DC. So we would be applying for this grant to help us establish more of a permanent space. It would be a one-time grant, and we would be looking to supplementing the grant with additional funding to make sure that we're able to match the needed fund request.
Got it. So it's a match process. Got it. Okay, that's awesome. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Could you, Tati, do you have a link to your presentation? Maybe we can share that with the community if Michael is fine with that.
I don't have a link to the presentation. I am happy to share the links to the videos that I have also included. I think, as they say sometimes, pictures worth 1,000 words. I would say that visit to Arctic House is worth 1,000 pictures, but I would be happy to share the few videos that would help the community to understand a bit more about Arctic House if they have not had a chance to familiarize themselves.
Got it. Well, I'll be happy to share those out as well. I would like to move that we send a letter of support for our Tech House and their application for the DEMPED 2023 DC Family Fund Destinations Grant.
Second. Oh, sorry.
This is seconded by Commissioner Lee. I heard first. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, three commissioners voting in favor of that. So that your deadline is the 14th, is that correct? Which is Friday?
The deadline was extended to this Friday, and thank you for your kind consideration and for your approval of the support letter.
Got it. And you send the support letter to you directly to include with the application, or does that go to DEMPED?
Yes, we would request a letter to go directly to us, as we have to include it as part of our application package.
Got it. I will get that off to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to hearing more about this and how community members can get involved and support your space.
Thank you, and we look forward to hopefully being a part of your district and helping to battle many concerns that are out there amongst the community with art and help bring back the downtown DC to the beauty that it used to be. It's still very beautiful. I enjoy being there. I enjoy spending time. So I'm looking for more opportunities.
And I am posting the links that Tate just put through for us to see. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is we'll move on to ABC cannabis licensing. Oh, I got it right this time. APCA. And Sema Sushi is our first up at 1660 I Street Northwest, a new retailer's Class C restaurant. It's Abra 125022. Is there anybody representing the establishment on this evening? I will just quickly share, attempt to share. Please stand by. Okay, I have that up. There we go. Again, this is located at 1660 L Street Northwest. It's a new retailer's Class C restaurant. It will be a full service restaurant serving Japanese cuisine, has a total of 28 with seating for 23 inside. It will be carry out and delivery. It will have carry out and delivery endorsements with that, which means they can carry out alcoholic beverages as well. And the hours of operation are Sunday through Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. I've heard this is in Commissioner Strauss's area. I have heard no objections about this. And do any community members have any feedback on the establishment? Then we can go ahead, Commissioner.
No. It's just I just looked it up on Google to see where it was. It's across from the Pete's and it's across from Barcode, but I don't see that there's going to be any issues.
Right. We can do one of two things as a commission. We can remain silent on the matter, which is perfectly fine to do so since they don't have representation here this evening, or we can send a letter of support. I would recommend that we, since there's no objection, I would recommend that we just remain silent on the issue and not send a letter of support, not protest the license as well.
I second that.
Okay. So there's a second on the floor. All those in favor to remain silent? Okay, 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. Next up, we have Bouquet Labs DC LLC at 610 H Street Northwest. Is there anybody representing the establishment on this evening?
Yes. Hi.
Hey there. How you doing?
Well, thank you. Thank you guys.
There you go. You're coming up there now for me. Okay, gotcha. Terrific. This is for a medical cannabis dispensary.
Correct. So thank you all so much for the opportunity to introduce myself and my co-founder who's on the line, Duran Cooper, and our business. I'll just jump right into it. We're both born and raised in DC. Duran went to Edmund Burke and then Morehouse for college. I went to Washington International School and then studied economics at UC Berkeley. And so when I was in Northern California at school, was able to meet some of the top talents and kind of award-winning operators in medical cannabis cultivation, manufacturing, and retailing. So after graduation in 2017, I started Bouquet Labs with Duran to bring that talent to the East Coast, where medical cannabis markets were still in their early stages, so we could better serve the licensed patients here. And so our flagship facility is in Maryland. In 2019, our business in Maryland participated in a really competitive licensing round, and we were awarded 1 of 7 medical cannabis processor licenses, which allow us to manufacture medical cannabis concentrates and cannabis infused products for registered patients in Maryland to treat their qualifying conditions. And that processor facility is currently operational as we speak in White Plains, Maryland, and is manufacturing products and distributing them to licensed dispensaries in Maryland. But we've really been preparing for the opportunity to be licensed in DC ever since we started, because we just wanted to be able to operate in our hometown and help our patients here. So we were really excited to see that a licensing round came about in 2021 by ABCA to award 1 dispensary license and 2 cultivation center licenses. And this was before DC lawmakers kind of changed the whole medical cannabis program here. So licenses were really scarce and limited. And so the licensing round was very competitive. So our business submitted a really strong application, and we were really happy to be awarded the 1 dispensary license that was being issued. and one of the 2 cultivation center licenses. So it will enable us to be vertically integrated here in DC. The cultivation center is located in Ward 5. So our dispensary was originally located in the Palisades on MacArthur Boulevard. And it's actually the neighborhood I grew up in. And we were able to speak extensively with the ANC there and ended up receiving their letter of support back when we were planning on setting up a shop over there. But when DC lawmakers and ABCA gave us the approval to switch locations, we were excited to be able to move to a new location in Chinatown, which is, as mentioned, located at 610 H Street Northwest, which used to be Rita's ice cream shop. And so this new location provides our business with a much stronger retail presence, obviously, as compared to the Palisades. And it's just a much more optimal space that's going to require a lot less renovation in order to begin operations. So we've established a great relationship with the landlord at 610 H Street, and we've entered into our lease agreement. And we're now working with our security contractors, our architects, and our general contractors to finalize our plans so we can, file for permits and complete the minor renovations we're going to need to do to develop it into a high quality, secure dispensary location. And we're excited to be the first licensed dispensary in the neighborhood, and it should provide for the community a really big improvement from all of the quote unquote gifting shops that are operating. We're going to be able to provide registered patients with medical cannabis products that are manufactured in DC, that are tested and compliant with all the quality assurance regulations in our law. And most importantly, the facility is going to operate with the highest levels of security protocols. So just to list a few of the features, we'll be sure to have security personnel on site 24/7, obviously a state-of-the-art surveillance and alarm system, access control mechanisms, which just doors with key card entry for limited access areas, the highest standards of vaults and inventory control. The whole space is being designed with security as a top priority. And we're working with a tier 1 security contractor that designs and installs security systems for licensed medical cannabis facilities and government agencies. And to touch on a point I heard earlier in the meeting, as part of our compliance with DC regulations, we have to ensure that no consumption of medical cannabis occurs in front of or around our premises. So if any of our licensed patients that come and purchase products from our facility do start consuming the products around the vicinity, our security personnel will stop it immediately and escalate the matter with MPD if need be. And obviously every patient, we have all of their identification on file as part of their onboarding process should a matter need to be escalated. But I just wanted to introduce ourselves and connect with you all, answer any questions, open a line of communication between our business and you guys. And we're hoping to be able to receive a letter of support from the commissioners to ABCA so that we can continue moving forward in this licensing process and hopefully join the lovely Chinatown community.
Thank you very much for that presentation and overview. We really appreciate that. So I have a couple of questions. Most of the medical cannabis areas or dispensaries that I've seen allow like one person to come in at a time or just a couple people come in at a time. Will there be queuing at some place like this?
So the facility, obviously security is the number one concern. And so not too many customers will not be allowed into the space at once to just ensure a smooth customer flow in and out. That being said, the dispensary door is, there's a main door into the unit and then you go up some steps and then there's another door. So there is some space should there be, 1 or 2 people who need to wait outside before they get let in. But the most important factor is to not allow too many people in at once so that it can remain, in an orderly fashion. But a typical transaction only takes, 2 to 3 minutes or so. So it's not as if people will be lingering in the facility. It should just be a smooth customer flow for all the registered patients that need to come get their medicine from our facility.
Got it. And will you have providers on site to do diagnostics for people to be able to issue prescriptions, or?
No. So in order for someone to enter the facility, they already need to be a licensed patient with ABCA. And so there is a patient registration process that everyone needs to go through where they identify their qualifying condition and they must get approved by ABCA before they can shop at a licensed dispensary. So all that happens beforehand. And when a patient is coming in, he will already be a licensed patient. He'll show his patient identification card and their DCID. And at that point, we'll be able to enter the premises.
And you said about, you had indicated about, which is one of the major issues that I was going to bring up, like the use on the streets right around your place. You brought that up about the patient, but what about the patient distributing it or selling it?
Again, the entire premises will be monitored with surveillance, like inside and right in front and right around, and security personnel will be positioned there 24/7. And so their entire job is to remain vigilant and make sure that there's no consumption, no, buying and reselling, which wouldn't really make much sense economically from a potential drug dealer per se, considering they're paying full price for a product in a licensed dispensary. It's not as if there's a market for buying and then reselling at street level prices or anything like that. But the entire premises will not have any, on-site consumption or any illicit activities. And it's the security personnel's job to ensure that is the case 24/7. And we'll obviously have a strong relationship with MPD that we hope to establish with the lieutenants that were in the meeting earlier and their colleagues to make sure that if any matter is escalated, we can have a quick response time for any activity that is illegal.
Oops. Got it. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I'll let Kristen go first.
Sorry, I did have one question, which is, in terms of security for your business, obviously you've heard there are concerns in the area. Is that something that you guys have a plan for?
Yes, ma'am. So first of all, to even have the privilege of operating as a licensed operator, we have to go through a really rigorous application process, which requires hundreds of pages of security protocols and security designs and contractors. And we already have needed to demonstrate to ABCA now, that we can meet every security related regulation that's in DC law right now. To the highest standard and beyond. So 100%, the space will be equipped with a state-of-the-art infrastructure that some, may even be over the top, but it's better to be safe than sorry, especially if there has been incidents in the neighborhood. And so and we've established a strong relationship with the landlord who has agreed to, allow us to secure the space to the highest level, down to the smallest detail. So we are understanding of the potential, desire by someone to want to break in. And so that's why we are going to have personnel on site and top level security system and monitoring at all times.
Thank you. I was just curious. It's sort of, I assume you have to operate similar to a pharmacy with higher value, I guess, or higher.
Exactly. Even a bank level security is usually what we try to, considering all of our inventory requirements and requirements for vaults of a certain standard and security and surveillance.
Thanks for answering my questions. Forgive my ignorance on the topic. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Hillo, will there? I was reading that because of federal banking requirements, that it's still not possible for people to use, credit or that it's still a cash only business or largely a cash only business? Is that still the case?
It is very much so that the majority, because as you said, of federal banking regulations. That being said, there are a few hundred financial institutions in the US that are federally chartered that still allow banking for medical cannabis businesses. They, on their end, I guess, take the risk to be able to onboard a new influx of clients. And yes, banking is very difficult. If you've been monitoring the federal landscape, hopefully it's changing for the better because of all the constraints it provides our licensed businesses. But the fact of the matter is, it is a majority cash business as we speak.
And I guess my other question is, as a dispensary, there's already one across the street. I think it's called Granny Zuz marijuana dispensary. And I've never been into one. Do people go in and they sample and they shop, they smell, they touch, and they figure out which product is the right product for them? Is that how it works? Like, again, I've never been inside.
No, no cannabis will be open to the open air in the facility. All items for display will have to remain closed and can just be viewed through glass. But I would like to draw the distinction between us and the quote gifting shops, one of which you just mentioned. These businesses aren't licensed by ABCA and haven't had to go through the rigorous application round that we have for the privilege to operate legally. And being a licensed operator comes with a much larger set of responsibilities and compliance with regulations in our law, particularly pertaining to quality assurance for the product itself, and to ensure no contaminants or pesticides, et cetera, as well as relating to security. We have to, by law, maintain a very high standard and adhere to every clause relating to securing the premises, whereas these other businesses don't.
Right. I mean, as much as, but why do you need a retail presence? Like, why not, if that's the case and you're just selling products that are behind glass cases, why not just mail out, create a website and mail out your products to individuals in DC? Like, why do people need to be physically in your shop?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So our license does give us the ability to provide delivery services. And so we estimate that the bulk of our traffic is going to be from delivery via an online portal for licensed patients. That being said, many patients want to come in and speak to a patient consultant about the product before they purchase to see, if there are any suggestions on which of the available products would best suit their medical condition or their symptoms. And so there, it's really a preference on the customer side, whether or not they want to have a dialogue with someone before they purchase, or if they already know what they want. The majority of them will just, do delivery.
And last question: have you considered any other locations in DC?
Yes, we've considered many. In keeping that, we wanted to move to an area with a little more retail foot traffic, and we've narrowed it down to certain regions. But the process of finding the right region and then finding a medical cannabis friendly landlord that is willing to issue a lease agreement, and finding a facility that's not going to require too much investment and renovation to make it optimal. There's a bunch of variables we have to go through, and all of them managed to be checked off with our landlord and property in Chinatown. And so that's the one we ended up selecting and submitting to ABCA. And they've approved the change of location request, and we're here to introduce ourselves and hopefully begin a long-term relationship with your ANC.
I have another question about I guess my question would be related to foot traffic. Since clients would be coming to you that are known clients to you, would an appointment only kind of shop be a better option for you? Like, have you considered something like that? Like, why in a retail environment, like foot traffic?
Again, usually dispensaries look to be in areas where they have some, a good degree of visibility among either, prospective patients with medical conditions that want to get licensed and, come be customers of our establishment. It's usually not best to be secluded away from areas with, high foot traffic, just from a business perspective. That being said, there's a balance, and obviously we wanted to be in an area that provides some retail activity, but is also not too hectic and bustling, and with a ton of other retail establishments around that are constantly flooded with people. So we found that balance, or as close as we could get to that balance, was at the property we selected, and appointment only. It would, from a business perspective, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to restrict the potential demand from our licensed patient and have them no one needs to schedule an appointment, but if they want to, they very well can. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. I guess I have one last question. I thought I had one. I thought I was done, but have you considered looking? There's a lot of commercial office retail space right now with front desk staff and security guards, and ready to maybe serve as your with downtown with plenty of foot traffic. Have you considered something less retail and more, I guess, in a secure environment where you already have a security guard present?
Understood. I mean, yes, the issue with a lot of those buildings, unfortunately, is that they're owned by larger companies or larger private equity firms, and a lot of these businesses have mortgages or loans against them from federally chartered banks who won't allow the landlord to have medical cannabis tenants to make sure that they are fully in compliance with federal regulations. So it gets tough when we start dealing with the larger mixed use or office buildings that are compliant with zoning, because usually our constraint comes in the shape of the landlord who needs to continue to remain compliant with his lender.
Got it. That very complicated issue for sure. Kasha, you have your hand up on the floor.
Hi, yes. So I just, being a resident here at the Gallery Place, already there's just so much of marijuana smoking and dealing right outside our steps that just really concerns me for a couple of reasons. Because it's going to be cash only, and I'm just thinking more robberies because people will know that those people have to have cash. And the lieutenant already said that they don't have enough people for the current amount of public safety issues. So I'm just thinking it's just going to be more people smoking out there and then just getting really belligerent. So I just want to say that I'm a renter right now, and I was thinking of buying a condo, but this kind of makes me wonder, if I really want to buy a condo in this area. And the final question I had is, how long were you in the Palisades?
Our business, you mean? Our business hasn't started operations yet. We were initially going to be located in the Palisades, and then a law passed that allowed us to switch to a different location. And so we're now moving to Chinatown, but we haven't started retail operations yet. And we still need several months in Chinatown before we can start. But just to touch on your two other points, first of all, relating to cash. So the cash doesn't remain on the premises, after a day of operations or a day or two, all the cash is removed by the security company from the vault to one of our banking partners. So it's not as if cash is just piling up in our inventory room that people are going to want to come and target. It's
Well,
always
I'm not thinking about people targeting your business. I'm thinking that there are going to be robberies like out on the street because they know that people are going to be carrying more cash in the neighborhood.
Well, frankly, there's so many gifting operations already in your neighborhood that aren't adhering to any regulations. And so if those dollars are being spent, right, those dollars are already being spent right now in the neighborhood. It's not as if people are now going to start carrying more cash in their pocket because of one more licensed facility. And, you know, in terms of people consuming, as I mentioned, we ensure that 24/7, none of that happens in front or around our premises with our security personnel.
But
And
we're a block away though, so I mean they're going to come over to our block.
right. And just to answer your final question, I do see things trending in a much more positive direction for the community members, considering that these gifting operators that are currently in Chinatown and across DC, they only have like a few months left. They're in like a grace period right now before the DC lawmakers have already passed the bill to begin enforcement against them. And obviously they're not hard to find. You could just Google them. And so once that grace period ends, all of these businesses are going to get cracked down on and shut down immediately. And we would hope that over time, the neighborhood will only have licensed facilities. And again, all of us need to make sure that no consumption occurs in or around our premises. And all the illegal and gray market gifting facilities are going to be enforced against and shut down. So I would definitely encourage you to continue to pursue your property acquisition in Chinatown, because it should be trending for the better.
All right, thank you.
We have Mr. Otto. Mark.
Hi, I hope my camera comes on. There it is.
There you go.
I live in the neighborhood. I've lived in the neighborhood for almost 18 years now. And I had a question for you. I mean, you referred to folks as patients. My understanding is that anyone can self-certify under the law that was passed in 2022 and declare themselves a patient and come in. I just wanted to clarify, is that your understanding as well?
Correct. That is the latest development in the law. It wasn't always so, but the DC government has been trying to expand the list of qualifying conditions that a patient can have and the accessibility of becoming a patient. So that is the latest regulations relating to becoming a patient, but they still are referred to as patients and must, as throughout the registration process, have a qualifying condition.
Right. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. And then I'll just comment that, the state of Colorado was one of the first to go in the United States, and they've been doing this since 2012. So if anyone has been to Colorado or Denver, they know kind of what the end state looks like. And it's much better that it be highly regulated than be gifted. There's no question about that. Are you looking at best practices from states that have already legalized it and are, well into the process? And if so, how would you compare what you want to do to what, a shop in Colorado might look like?
Understood. Yeah. So first of all, I 100% agree. Regulation is the solution. And so 100%, as I mentioned at the start of my presentation, it was at Berkeley in Northern California that I was able to meet some of the top operators in the space. And obviously California, like Colorado, is one of the first and fully mature markets. And so the whole premise was to take those leading growers and processors and retail operators and allow them the opportunity with our business to come and set up on the East Coast, where licenses were way more limited and patients were being underserved by our operators. And so, basically how we win or have won this license in the first place, a lot has to do with the credentials and experience of our team to be able to show, our ability to provide cultivation, manufacturing, and in our dispensary case, retail operations to the highest level. And I would very much compare our facility once operational to any top facility in Colorado, et cetera. Where the expertise of these operators really comes into play is really on the manufacturing side, where people who have done it for 20 plus years and have been able to really optimize the cultivation and manufacturing of medical cannabis products. When it comes to retail, it's really just a matter of ensuring security and customer layout. But aside from that, it's, you know, it could be a bakery or any type of retail shop. It's the same customer flow or everything like that. So not that hard to be able to ensure dispensary operations are equivalent or better to somewhere like Colorado. It's really cultivation and manufacturing where our talent is, the talent and experience of our team is really going to be able to set us apart from current licensed operators. So in short, yes, I do foresee us bringing the top level of technical experience to the market here.
And is your license application available for public inspection?
No, absolutely not. Those are, as you know, full of proprietary data. So because in many markets, these licenses are so sought after, the quote unquote secret sauce for filling out an application, a successful application is highly confidential and like really at the core of successful businesses that win their own licenses. So obviously all the data relating to, you know, public, the data that would interest the public even is available to them, like, you know, hours of operation and et cetera. But the details of our, you know, back-end infrastructure and on the manufacturing side, our grow and manufacturing protocols are highly proprietary.
Yeah, I was thinking more in the operational standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, hours, but, you know, like store layout, security procedures, et cetera.
Yeah, so those are all made available to ABCA, obviously. And, you know, if the ANC would like to review like a redacted version of our application that just shows those types of components, we could, you know, try to get one formatted for them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And we have one more hand, and this is to Howard Marks.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Schenkel. So Mr. Helio, is that your last name? Is that how you pronounce it?
Hello, yes.
Hello, okay. So thank you for your presentation tonight. Like my my neighbor, also very concerned about your application. But maybe what my concern is that what you described earlier as the so-called illegal market or gray market. I don't know the difference between the two. But of course, you obviously did your due diligence and you came over here to this neighborhood. You saw what was happening at the station. You saw how the drug dealers are there, cannabis dealers in large numbers, servicing clients that come up that escalator from the station itself. And yet you went ahead and still decided to locate here. What is your analysis of what's going on at that station? Who are they servicing? What market? And how do they differ from the market you're after? And why isn't it, if I'm going to be going to your dispensary and someone offers me the same product at a much lower cost, why would I continue to buy from you?
Understood. So thank you for your questions. You know, obviously I can't speak to the specifics of the particular, you know, drug dealers that you're referring to outside the metro station, et cetera. I don't know, you know, what they're selling. Obviously that does not fall under my purview or jurisdiction as a business owner in a licensed market in DC. That being said, I do know, as mentioned, enforcement against. So first of all, let me clarify the distinction between illegal and gray market. These illegal operators would be standing on the street, et cetera. The gray market and gifting operators are using the front of another service, like a storefront offering art pieces, and you go in there and buy an art piece and you get gifted cannabis alongside of it. It's exploiting a loophole that's in our law that allows people to gift cannabis to one another, but they're not allowed to sell it. So there is a slight distinction between the two and how they run their retail operations. Both of them, you know, are going to experience serious enforcement. There's only a few months left on this quote unquote grace period that these businesses have before enforcement begins from our lawmakers against them. So all the gifting shops with actual retail storefronts will be closed down by the end of the year. And as far as the individual, I guess, individual retailers, illicit retailers, if you want to call them, that definitely falls under the purview of MPD. And I would think that they would continue to try to enforce against them, as the community is clearly very unhappy, rightfully so, with their presence. To answer your question about why someone would shop at a licensed dispensary rather than any illicit provider, you think about the patients with cancer and epilepsy and severe conditions that are being treated by cannabinoids, which is the psychoactive chemical in medical cannabis. Even people with less severe conditions like chronic pain or glaucoma or whatever it may be, these people want to ensure that they're buying products that are tested for quality assurance and have gone through testing labs and are certified by those labs to be of a quality to treat their medical conditions. So number one, it's for the peace of mind of quality assurance. Second of all, for the peace of mind of security. You're going to know that you're walking into a highly secure facility with the same level of security as a bank, as mentioned, or something similar. So a lot of our potential older patients, I'm sure, are going to prefer that type of retail setting rather than any of the gifting or illicit options that they may be presented with. So it really comes down to the customer's preference in the end for quality assurance and security. And so that's why they would visit us instead of any other illicit option.
Thank you very much for all your answers tonight and your thoroughness in answering them. When do you anticipate opening? You said you need a couple of months yet. What would a timeline be?
We hope that if things continue to move smoothly, we'll be operational by the end of the year. But as you know, in DC, getting permits for construction, et cetera, can have some delays. So we're obviously at the whims of certain agencies relating to our renovation process. But there is very minor renovation that needs to be done to our facility. So we should be on track, permits allowing, to be operational by end of year.
And your license has been approved. Is that correct for this?
Correct. So there's like a several step process. So we were awarded, so we won the licensing round and were awarded. And now following this ANC placard period, actually, it will be quote unquote approved. And then we have to complete our build out and security system installation, et cetera, have a final inspection conducted by ABRA to ensure everything's in compliance with the regs, and show them our certificate of occupancy. And at that point, we get our final registration issued. So we're somewhere in the middle of that process right now, having been awarded and almost approved after hopefully successful talks with the ANCs. And then we'll just get the space built out, inspected, and final license issued after that.
Got it. Thank you. And you do have to have, so I guess my question becomes, do you have to have, is the establishment going to be placarded like you would like a liquor?
Yes. I believe it was meant to have been placarded last week, but I believe APCA had some type of delay in getting that done. So from what I understand, the placard should be printed today and posted on Friday or so, which is the second we heard about the start of the placard period is when we obviously reached out to the ANC, and we hope to be able to receive you all's letter of support to be able to conclude this step of the registrations process.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Two last questions. I know I've been asking a lot of questions lately. What are your proposed hours of operations? And number two, to address some of the security concerns with having so much cash lying around, can you create a way to only take gift cards? Because I know some of the restaurants along 7th Street, because of robberies, they've now stopped accepting cash, only credit card payments or only other e-forms. And to get away from the credit card limitations. I believe that you can take gift cards, or you can have people buy gift cards and you can take the gift cards. Is that something that you can incorporate into your business?
I will definitely look into the feasibility of that. And yeah, I can circle back with you all on how that plays out, but definitely an interesting insight. And relating to the hours of operations, it will be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Those are the current approved hours by ABRA, subject to any future changes, but I believe they should remain as is. So it's not going to be open too late into the night or anything like that, but our security personnel will be there 24/7. Sorry, just one last point relating to the gift cards. I believe that also isn't in compliance with federal regulations. I don't believe that people are allowed to make purchases using the gift cards. I have some of my team members sending me messages about it right now, but we'll definitely look back into it and circle back.
I would like to move that we send a letter of support for Boutique Labs DC LLC for the dispensary at 610 H Street, pending that the placard information is as stated.
I second that motion.
And all the commissioners in favor? 2 commissioners in favor. Are you? Is there an abstention or those who?
I'll abstain.
You're abstained. Okay. So 2-1-0. Okay. So we will move forward with sending a letter of support for that application.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Provide us with placard information as soon as you get it.
Yes, we haven't received it yet, but I was speaking to APCA just last week and they said that it should be printed on Tuesday and posted on Friday.
Okay.
So hopefully they will stick to that timeline.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is 11th Street Northwest Bus Priority Project. And Johannes, are you with us? I saw you earlier.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah. My name is Johannes Benoff. I'm one of the transportation planners on the bus priority team at DDOT. This is not the first time we've talked about this project. It's getting towards the construction phase. We're at the 65% design, and this is just kind of an update of where we are, and then some information about the current round of engagement and how people can give any feedback they have for us. So I'm gonna be sharing my screen here in a second. All right, just double checking that you see a presentation that says 11th Street Northwest Bus Priority Project.
Yes, I see that.
All right. Okay. Like I said, my name is Johannes Benoff. And this project, excuse me, is part of the greater bus priority network that we've been working on throughout the city. You can see here on the map, all the blue lines are the full built out extents once we're complete. And then you can see highlighted where 11th Street falls in the downtown area. Goals for this project are to create reliable fast transit on 11th Street. Currently, the lines serve the S2, 63, 64, P6, G8, D4, and the circulator. Those go on all or part of the route, depending on the route. The current plan also works on improving the existing bike facility. So there are currently unprotected bike lanes on this portion of 11th Street. They will be moving to parking protected or bus lane protected the entire length of the project. This will link up with the bike lane project that will extend from along 11th Street all the way up into Columbia Heights. We're also looking at a couple of road safety improvements, just make some minor changes to just improve some safety. And then we're just emphasizing that this plan is consistent with a lot of our guiding documents, such as Move DC and the mayor's recent DC comeback plan, looking to strengthen transit access and service, and working to help establish downtown destination corridor focus on transforming public space, transit, retail, and entertainment, also expanding multimodal transportation capacity. And then, regardless of what the fate of the K Street Transitway is, this will be one of the key connections to the downtown area. This is the extent of the project. We're looking at Pennsylvania, which is on the left side, and south. The orientation is north to the right. And then kind of the Massachusetts L Street intersection. It'll go just to the north of the northern leg of L Street at that intersection. And then there will be a temporary bike lane transition back into the unprotected section until that project kicks off and continues the protected bike lanes north. This is just kind of a timeline of where we were and where we are. We started in the winter of 21 into 22, first round of public engagement, second round in the spring of 22. We've been working on concepts and traffic analysis, and we began design earlier in the spring. And now we're in the notice of intent period that was put out on June 7th, and it'll close on July 21st. It's an opportunity for a formal public engagement, comments for this project. And we expect to complete design early in the fall and then go to construction this fall. You can see here just another breakdown of kind of some of the group stakeholder meetings we've had so far, and then highlighting again, on the 21st is the formal closure of the NOI period. Just a reiteration that we've had a lot of engagement on this project, and we continue to receive emails, calls, in-person meetings, all kinds of different types of engagement to ensure that we're getting everybody's opinion and making sure that we're not missing anything as we develop this project. Just some of the key design features that have kind of been decided since earlier engagements for people that have been following this. We're looking at 24/7 bus lanes through the corridor, except for one specific area, and that is across the street from the Asbury Church, where there will be Sunday parking regulations in place to compensate for a lot of loss of parking in that area. And then as well as some modifications to ADA accessible parking in that area to better conform with how that church needs access. We're, again, I mentioned the protected bike lanes as part of this project. We have determined that we'll be using the shared bus bike stop platforms at the locations where there are bus stops, and that the I Street Northwest slip lane, or it's like a little stub of a lane. This would be where the new Tate is recently opened up. So there's on the east side of the street, it is kind of a pedestrian only area that's been completely remodeled. And on the west side of the street, there's a small section between New York and 11th Street. We'll be closing that off. So it'll be kind of a ped bike only section, and cars won't be able to go through there anymore, just to make some of the connections a little bit safer and easier for pedestrians and cyclists moving through that area.
Could you repeat that one more time? What are you closing off?
I'll bring up a more detailed map. Just
got it. Thank you.
Yeah. And then just some examples here of the types of platforms that we'll be installing. They look similar. We're using 2 different types in the corridor, just based on the way the engineering of the roadway is working. You can see on the left is a concrete shared bus stop platform. This is on Pennsylvania. This is a picture from one on Pennsylvania Avenue in Capitol Hill. If you want to take a look at what they're going to look very similar to. And then the modular style, this is a product known as a Zikla product. This is in kind of the Mount Vernon area on K Street. And then I will switch to another screen here. Take a look at it a little bit more detailed. All right, so this is a detailed roll plot, kind of going from south to north. You can see here in red is our bus only lanes, green is it highlighting the protected bike lanes, and then the travel lanes are kind of penciled in black. The particular location, to answer the question that you're asking, because I know describing it is not as good as a visual. You can see here we're in New York, I Street and 11th all intersect. This is kind of the city center development and the pedestrianized area. And then there's this like small little stub of I Street on the south side of New York that didn't get closed off in that development. But it functionally just works right now for people that are on New York to take a quick turn onto 11th. You know, a slip lane is the language that you might hear this be described as. So we're going to be kind of just closing that off. And then we're looking at potentially adding, you know, some bike racks or a cabbie station here. That hasn't quite been determined yet. We're trying to work with folks immediately adjacent to see, you know, what the best use of that space could potentially be. But that'll help some of the like bike and walking connections be a little bit safer through here. Folks won't have to worry about as many car interactions when they're crossing New York. And then to highlight kind of where that parking area that I talked about earlier would be, that'd be on this block here between K and I on Sundays in this northbound side. That would be that's a limited parking for Sunday service because of the you know, reduction in parking largely from all the various projects that we're doing in the area. And then you can see here is you know, just kind of a top-down view of like some of where these platform will be located. But it's fairly consistent, similar design. There's a couple blocks where we have parking instead of a bus lane. We kind of determined that there wasn't really a feasible way to shift some of those uses in the near term that would cause more problems than we'd be solving with a bus lane. So we came up with some mitigation for that. And then if you know, uses changes in the future, we'll be able to kind of make a more consistent bus lane design in those blocks where that doesn't currently exist. So are there any questions that I can answer?
Let me see here. There we go. And I can't see if I have anybody's hands up here. Okay, got it. A couple of questions for me. So 11th Street is currently 2 lanes in both directions, right? Plus parking. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, and then the unprotected bike lane.
Oh, and the unprotected, that's correct. Yeah. So this would be eliminating the parking spots?
There'll be yeah, so there will be a removal of most of the on-street parking, and then there will be one general purpose travel lane in each direction plus turn lanes at intersections where there's a high volume of turns, and then bus lanes in both the north and south direction. So the traffic modeling on this showed very little change in the level of service. So level of service is one of the metrics we use for like how much traffic there is. So there's very little change. This is a very overbuilt roadway for the amount of like cars that are actually traveling on it. And we use data, from the peak of the peak prior to the pandemic. So that's not reflective of the much lower traffic that we are seeing here and overall throughout the city. So we did a very conservative traffic estimate on that.
And the data also, did that data take into account the 9th Street bike lane projects and the removal of spaces and parking?
It did.
Okay, it did. Okay, good. I'm just kind of questioning, I guess if my memory I'm just going up that alley, got that street, I'm sorry, there is probably only the parking at City Center that is a garage.
There's actually like a couple dozen garage entrances on 11th.
But are they public?
I don't have the number of which garages are public and which are not. I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah, I know that you're probably eliminating what, 80 spaces?
It's roughly 70 spaces.
70 spaces.
Throughout the entire corridor.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do. Since I live on 11th Street, or rather adjacent to 11th Street, I'm going to get asked by people in my building. I live on 1010 Mass, which is 11th between K and Massachusetts, basically the top end of this. And like alley entrances, are they going to be closed?
Nope, all the alley entrances, all the driveway entrances, all accesses that currently exist will continue to exist.
Okay, because we have
that one section of High Street.
Gotcha. We have some new retail businesses. Well, I'm sure that I have let them know about this so that they can weigh in while we're doing the NOI process.
Yep, and we've been talking with the downtown bid extensively. We've had a meeting with constituents and stakeholders, a couple, smaller group that are specific block discussions are also scheduled.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Alto.
Thanks, Commissioner Schenkel. Hi, Mr. Benhoff. I do have a question. I looked through all the presentations on the NOI site for this project. I saw some data about boardings and alightings for buses. I don't see any data about bicycles. Have you benchmarked current bike lane usage as well as projected or anticipated bike lane usage? Do you have KPIs, measures of success?
We don't have like a specific KPI for future bike use. This is for us, it's more of like an added bonus to create safety for all road users. We do have some data that came in after the NOI was posted about bicycle counts in the area. I can provide that to the commissioners as well. It just hasn't gone up in that NOI.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in seeing that data. Thanks.
Yep.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions? Any other community questions? I'd like to move that we send a letter of support for the 11th Street Northwest Bus Priority Project. Is there a second? Thomas is seconding. Commissioner Lee is seconding. All those in favor? Please raise your hand. So 2 commissioners voting in favor, those opposing?
I'm just going to abstain. I would like to look at the documents a little bit further.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, and to that point, we have a website set up for every single one of our projects. I will put it in the chat to the chair so he can share that. But if you're on our website here that I'm sharing, you'll see the individual page. Once you get to it, it'll have a map explaining everything about the project so far, and then all the project documents are listed here in this section. So if you have trouble getting to the NOI site, I know it's not as user-friendly as I wish it would be, but everything that is available there is also available here, plus some of our older material if you want to see the progress of like what we've changed throughout the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming back, and thank you for incorporating ideas and doing so much community engagement on this process. I do appreciate that. Awesome. Next, we will move forward with planning, zoning, environment, and historic presentation. First up, we have 1525 H Street Northwest, which is St. John's Episcopal Church, who's applying for a fine arts and historic preservation review. And do we have Andy who's on with us this evening?
Andy is on, but I'm Bill Gridley. I'll be presenting it as the architect for the project.
Got it. Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Reverend Rob Fisher is with us as well, and I think he's going to start and just give you a brief overview of
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to begin just with a very brief overview. I know it's been a long Zoom call, so I'm going to keep it short. So I have the privilege of being the rector of St. John's Lafayette Square, which is a pretty remarkable institution here in Washington, D.C. And the history associated with this church is pretty astounding. The church was built in 1816 by the architect Benjamin Henry Latrobe. And then our new addition was added in 1822, which is the bell tower and the portico that's on the front. We actually don't know for certain who was the designer of that. But we do know when the bell tower was built, a bell was commissioned to be placed inside it, almost 1,000 pounds, and it was forged in Boston by Paul Revere's son, Joseph Revere. And we were very fortunate that President Monroe, who was president at the time, made it possible for public funds of $100 to go towards paying for that bell. And that was about 25% of the cost of the bell, $400, very expensive bell. And happy to say that the bell is still in place and still in use. And there were only 2 Revere bells in Washington, D.C., both installed in 1822. And the one that we have and still use is the only one that's still in continuous use from then. So it's very special. And a little interesting part of that is the reason that President Monroe made the funds available was because it was they realized that it was more than just announcing church services, but it was a safety feature for the whole neighborhood, so that that bell tower would, be able to be a fire alarm, if the White House or any other structures were in danger. Speaking of the historic nature of this tower, though, there is a watercolor from 1822 when it was first built, and you can see the angle of the painting. It doesn't even show the White House, but around the church, it's just like farmland. It's a couple little houses dotting the land, and there's the Dolly Madison home. And then you look at St. John's with that brand new addition, the portico and the bell tower, and basically looks just like it does today. So over 200 years, it has been a fixture of our part of the neighborhood. And I know that the White House and St. John's are really the only 2 buildings that date back as far as we do that are still being used for what they were built to actually be. So we are entrusted with the care of this bell tower. Really, nothing has been done in 50 years and by way of serious maintenance. It's because it's very hard to access it. And so we are seeking to do the work that is needed to restore it, make it look exactly as it has before the years have taken their toll. And also to add some features that will make it easier to get access to the bell tower to keep it maintained in the future. We want to do this as a gift to the generations that are going to follow us. So with that, someone who can speak much more to the technical aspects of this project, I'm turning it over to Bill Gridley of Bowie Gridley, which is now part of DLR, who is our architect here for this project.
Thank you, Rob. Let me share my screen. You should be seeing first slide showing an image of the church itself from 16th Street. So I think you're all probably familiar with this building. It really is a remarkable building. It's one of the most beautiful historic buildings in all of Washington, in my opinion. And of course, we intend to take great care in how we go about working on it. Let me just make sure you're all oriented as I show you a plan. So here's the aerial view with north to the top of the page, Lafayette Square to the bottom, and H Street going across the middle. And that, if I go to a plan, you can see it slightly enlarged with, again, H Street at the bottom, 16th Street on the left. What we propose to do here is it's not a simple project, but it's a fairly straightforward project. It's renovating and fixing up the bell tower itself and re-roofing the slate roof over the church itself. So it's really just two components that will be done by separate contractors. It's our intention to, as Reverend Fisher said, to do this in a way that is very faithful to the way it was originally designed and has been over 2 centuries now. So the slate will be something that will be done to match the existing slate, and it's our intention to match the detailing of the tower as well. The tower itself is in quite a state of disrepair now. Again, it hasn't been touched really in 50 years. One of the reasons for that is that it's extremely hard to get access to it. So a big part of this project is making sure we're able to get safe access to it through scaffolding, and then ensure being able to maintain it going forward in the future. So as you can see, the wood, the paint, the metal is in quite bad shape. Just a couple quick shots of that and a little bit closer in. So here's some pictures of the copper roofing, which has been painted, the wood, which has been painted and is in disrepair. And then just taking a quick look at the bell tower itself. We'll be replacing the louvers, we'll be replacing all of the wood in its current configurations. We're lucky enough to have really good detailed drawings of the church tower itself from the Trobe. And so we know we'll be able to match those. We also intend to use a contractor who's going to be able to get up there with scaffolding and take pieces down and do careful measurements. One of the things that we are, and by the way, this is currently under application with HBRB and Commission of Fine Arts. So we're going to be going in front of Fine Arts next week, I believe, with our first presentation. But we do intend to, one of the issues has been that the wood deteriorates very rapidly over time. So it's our intention to use something called poly ash, which is a coal ash and resin material, which can be put together and molded, and it acts as in profile exactly like wood. It feels like wood, it cuts like wood, it installs like wood, but it doesn't expand or contract, and it doesn't take in any water. So it's our hope, if we get approval to use this material, that we'll be able to put it back exactly as it currently looks, only new, and with a material that will hold up over a much longer period of time. And this is just an example of some of the profiles of that. That has recently been put into the Theodore Roosevelt High School in Petworth. And this is the cupola on that high school, all done in this poly ash material. And as you can see, it really does look like wood and feels like wood when it goes in place. So that's our ask tonight. We would hope very much to get a letter of approval from you to support us in our effort to get this approved by the Commission of Fine Arts and Historic Preservation and Review Board. And having said that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the project.
This is such a historic building and tower. So I'm so happy that you guys are in the process of restoring this and keeping this for generations to come, as you said, which is fantastic. So there are two things that I think you are asking for. One is one for fine arts? Is it the use of the materials that you're looking for and the replacement as it is there, or if you're in front of both committees, can you tell me the difference between the historic preservation review?
Historic preservation, the application went into historic preservation. It gets referred to the Commission of Fine Arts, and the Historic Preservation Review Board may take, if or when it's approved by Commission of Fine Arts, HPRB may take that and act on it. They may also want us to present to them separately. So they're two separate approvals. Each of them have to approve the intent of the design and the use of the materials that we're proposing. And again, the materials, for the most part, the interior of it, which is all structural wood, that's going to stay the same within it. It's the cladding of it that is the new material that we're proposing to use, and we think there's lots of good historical precedent for using it. It's our intent to make this really do it right. I mean, we are aligned with the intentions of CFA and HBRB on this, but we also want to make sure that it will last as long as it possibly can. As some of you may know, I mean, wood these days, it's just not quite as good as it used to be. There's a lot more synthetic material that's being used in place of wood. Yes. And there's a lot of history now behind it in terms of having been around and holding up. So the metal is all going to be done in copper. The gilded part at the top, not the dome itself, which is gilded now, but we believe the original one was copper. We're going to replace that in copper, but the gilded weather vane on top, that's going to be something will be gilded. So we'll also be replacing the stucco at the base of it with stucco. Mm-hmm. So it's our hope that when done, everybody will say it just looks great, and it's always looked this way, and it'll look this way in 10 years, 20 years, and 50 years.
Awesome. I think this is totally fantastic. And commissioners, do you have any questions? Go ahead.
Sorry, just a quick question of, and you may not know this yet, for whatever contractor that you hire to do the work, is it going to block a lot of the traffic? And because I know that's like an access point of Black Lives Matter, it's an access point of Lafayette. I realize the logistics are very difficult here unless you're going to I don't know, repel someone in.
Yeah, it's hard to scaffold this. And some of that scaffolding may have to take place on public property. And so an important part of selecting a contractor for this is to be assured that any scaffolding subcontractors are experts in their field in historic structures. And we'll have to, of course, get any scaffolding that goes on public property, we'll have to have separate permits for.
Okay, I was just curious because I'm looking at the picture, realizing the logistical issue that you're facing.
Yeah, it's difficult. Hence, it's so difficult to do, to get at on any regular basis. One of the things we do hope to do is put some infrastructure in place within the interior of the tower that will let us come back and maybe have some places we can attach scaffolding more easily in the future and not have to get back on public property. So that's part of our thinking and part of our presentation as well to Fine Arts.
Okay, thank you.
I would move that we send a letter of support for 1525 H Street, St. John's Episcopal Church, and the refurbishment and preservation of the steeple.
I second that.
Awesome. All those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. You said your hearing is coming up in the next week?
That's July 20th.
July 20th. Okay, we will get a letter out to them for you.
Thank you so much.
Do you happen to have a case number with them that you?
I think we can dig one up. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, that's okay. But if you want to send it to me, that would be
Andy,
great.
you have it, Jerry?
We can get one to you.
Yeah,
We have them and we will get them to you.
that would be great. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
All right,
Thank you all
thanks
very
everybody.
much.
And thank you for hanging in there with us tonight.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you all so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Next on our agenda is Dispatch Health, requesting a certificate of need registration. And do we have someone on for Dispatch Health? Oh, there
Yes.
we go. Hi,
John
how are
Stedman.
you?
Nice
Hi,
to meet you,
John.
Commissioner. Nice to meet everyone here. Thank you again for the time. I will be as brief as humanly possible. We're in the last couple minutes of the meeting here today. Brief background, Dispatch Health, as it was mentioned, are applying for a certificate of need with the District of Columbia State Health Planning Agency to furnish in-home medical care throughout the district, which would obviously include all of you. We were founded in 2013. We currently operate in over 20 states using acute emergency medicine and hospital trained professionals to provide in-home care to patients with urgent and acute medical conditions that can safely and effectively be cared for outside of an emergency department or a hospital. To date, we've treated over 1 million patients across the country in our various different services. We form close relationships with health plans, federally qualified healthcare centers, medical groups, and other healthcare entities. We both furnish and promote coordinated care to reduce unnecessary ED visits, so emergency room visits, hospital stays, and to reduce readmissions. We deliver coordinated high acuity medical care in the home for a variety of different things and illnesses and various injuries, which I can definitely follow up and provide you more details on, but things such as viral infections, COPD exacerbations, gastrointestinal issues, congestive heart failure, and much more. We receive a very high patient satisfaction score. We use something called a Net Promoter Score, which is a measure of the likelihood of someone to recommend a service. And out of 100, we have a 94 across all our 50 markets across the country, with over 80% of patients responding through our surveys. We work, again, with many different organizations and are excited to launch these services within the District of Columbia. How it works is Dispatch Health, first of all, will treat patients ages 3 months and older, 7 days a week, including holidays, and our hours are typically from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. So this is every single day of the year once we set up operations. I would say our closest market to all of you is in Northern Virginia, so just on the other side of the river is one of the markets that we operate in currently today. Our visits are for urgent medical care, and they can be scheduled during and after regular business hours for visits on the same day or the next day. Our services can be requested by anyone. So clinicians, it can be requested from health plans, directly by patients themselves, via calling us via the phone or during normal business hours during using a web request. Our requests are reviewed to make sure that the patient is appropriate to be seen based on the medical condition. And then they're told of a certain time of arrival, and then we will dispatch our medical team out to the home to take care of that patient. They will provide a variety of different services right there in the home to help take care of the patient. We have a lot of tools and treatments to do so, including on-site diagnostics and a lab. So we can actually do testing for urinalysis. We can do COVID testing and a variety of other tests right there at the bedside of the patient. At the end of the visit, we'll coordinate care and work to schedule any follow-up appointments with the current patient's primary care physicians or when possible, we'll try to connect that patient to resources in the community to get that follow-up care. So I'll stop and pause for any questions that you guys might have. I think the one main thing I definitely want to touch on before I do so is just to let you know, we currently already have established relationships with several health insurance companies in the district, because that's how it works. We'll actually bill your insurance, and we're actively in discussions to establish relationship with many managed Medicaid populations, Medicare Advantage, and other community resources.
Got it. Do you offer testing and lab services beyond CLIA waived testing in the field?
So give me an example of what you'd be asking for.
Like, would you run a CBC or like a blood, comprehensive blood panel?
Typically, we will refer that to a primary care physician at this time. We are primarily designed to provide urgent level care in the home, so urgent care in the home. So instead of contacting an emergency department or going to an urgent care, you could come see us. We would not be looking to replace a primary care physician services. We would be looking to augment that.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Okay. Interesting model. It's really a great model to have occur and have available. Is there I'm sure there's a cost differentiation between coming out to your home than going to a urgent care center.
The great news for patients is there is not. How it typically is billed. For the insurance companies, it's a little different, but which is a nice change. But for patients themselves, families, so on and so forth, it is the price of a typical urgent care visit. So the way that the insurance companies will bill it is based on whatever your urgent care benefit is in your plan. So it's a huge benefit to patients to utilize this service. Of course, you want to utilize it when it's appropriate, which we help encourage. We don't want you to call us for an ear infection. We'll come see you, but it might not be as high a priority as somebody that's having a COPD exacerbation and struggling to breathe. So, but yes, that's the cost of it, whatever the urgent care benefit is.
It's great. Commissioners. No questions? Okay. Great. And when do you have your hearing?
I believe it is scheduled for early September. I could be wrong. It could be late August. But the last I believe I heard from our legal team was it was supposed to be beginning of September.
Got it. And where will you where will you be based at? Like, where will your operations be housed, or your office?
Yeah, so we're still kind of determining that. We have a location selected, but I believe we're still discerning if that lease we're going to take acceptance of. Regardless, we provide care within a 45 to 50-minute driving radius, and we're selecting the middle of DC, so it will be all of you will be very much within the catchment area of our services. I know that traffic is really bad there, and we've evaluated that already. But that's the great news, is that for something like the District of Columbia, we'll be able to cover the entire district. Whereas in other metropolitan areas, we have to select certain parts of that area to start.
Got it.
So we have multiple teams, so we don't just have one operation. We'll have multiple teams that will be available to be dispatched out to the patients.
And are you going to other ANCs and asking for support of Okay, got it. I just was curious.
We're making part of this is primarily education, and then secondarily is a letter of support if you also choose to do. But we wanted to make sure as many of you are aware of this service as well, and then of course get your feedback and answer any questions. We were very much encouraged to do that, as we've been told that this is something that appears like it's really needed within the district due to a lack of urgent cares and other resources.
Yes. And one additional question. With the services that you're offering, the kind of service you're offering, are there other places, other folks in this like market like that does home urgent care visits
No.
in DC? I didn't think
No.
so. I thought you were unique in that.
We're very unique because it's a very difficult model to run and run a business on. But because of our size and the fact that we're operating in so many markets across the country, it has allowed us to fund entrances into various different markets to be able to offer this service to communities. It is something that's difficult to run, but we also have the ability to offer a lot more over time to the communities if the need becomes available. So we also have the ability to provide post-acute support. So leaving a senior living facility, leaving a hospital and getting a visit in the home, we have other services that we provide that also help us fund this. But there is nobody else in the District of Columbia that offers in-home urgent care that we're aware of.
Yeah, I'm not either, actually. So that's great. Commissioners, do you have questions? Go ahead, Thomas.
What was the address again for the dispatch center? I know you mentioned it, but I think I cut out there for a second.
I don't actually have the address on me. I can go ahead and look at what the address is. I know it's in downtown DC somewhere, and we're evaluating if that's going to be the final space for our location. But I can look that up and provide that information to all of you guys. Again, from our standpoint, it doesn't really matter. We'll come to you as long as you're within a 30 or 45-minute radius, which covers the entire district. So we don't provide any care in our office. I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. The care is provided in the home of the patient.
Got it. We have 3 questions on the floor. We'll take these 3 questions. Kasha?
Hello. The question I had was, so if there's an emergency, do we call you guys or do we call an ambulance?
So what we tell people is if it is life-threatening, and our website, we indicate what are some of the things that you would definitely want to make sure you call 911 for. But if you were to call us, regardless, we triage you. We have a tool that we use that quickly identifies if it is something that you should be calling 911 for. And we will tell you when we're triaging you that you need to call 911 and go to an emergency room, and we're not an appropriate resource for your symptoms. Otherwise, we'll tell you we can see you, and then we'll dispatch a team out to you. And our methodology and our triaging actually takes into consideration the amount of time it will take for us to get to you and the condition that you have. As you can imagine, in doing this type of work, we have to be extremely cautious to make sure that we're not having any sort of situations where it's way above what we should be treating. And we've had no fatalities related to anything regarding that, no lawsuits. We've had no issues, and we've treated over 1 million patients. But that's a great question. So we encourage you to call us, but obviously if it's chest pain, call 911, or very serious injury of like a loss of limb, something like that. Absolutely.
Got it. Some hands went down, so I do want to go to Nancy next. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi. Do you anticipate forging relationships with the main corporate medical industrial complex players in the area like MedStar, GW, if you're getting into the Medicare and Medicaid funding, that would be Unity Healthcare.
Yes.
I'm in a senior living facility.
Yes.
And we would love.
What's the name of your facility, Nancy?
The residences at Thomas Circle. We're right downtown.
Okay.
We are supposedly luxury senior living. So
you would be one of our key partners, and I would not surprise me if someone has already reached out. If not, Nancy, I would welcome a name of somebody that we should contact. Senior living facilities are some of our best partners. because of
Yes.
obvious reasons. It is something that we do a lot of work and are very skilled in providing services to those communities.
Yeah, so many of our residents refuse to go to the emergency room.
And that's actually something we deal with quite a bit, Nancy. There's lots of very touching stories where we've helped people understand where they're at within their journey. And if it requires maybe involvement from hospice or palliative care instead of an ED, we do that. Or we're also very skilled at educating patients when it really does make sense to go to an ED. So
yeah,
Nancy,
we've actually had tragedies of people with a fall that turned out to be a brain bleed. And one of our residents died 3 weeks later because by the time she cognitively lost function so quickly from the brain bleed that it just, that's a needless tragedy.
Yes.
But we have the GW Geriatrics department is embedded with us. They have their doctors and residents here 5 days a week during the day, but it's all the other hours of the week
Right.
where there's no one on site to triage someone to do a house call.
So we're very welcoming to those types of partnerships. And I would tell you, Nancy, we look to try to form partnerships with as many organizations that we can where they can find value in the services we provide for their patients.
Yes, but it would be in the context of our GW, but we also have Kaiser patients who are, there's so many different.
There is. And just so you know, if someone wants to do a self-pay with us, they can do self-pay with us as well. We won't turn down somebody for services if their insurance is not accepted. So that's always an option. We look to get a network with everybody, but you're right, Kaiser can sometimes be interesting. We want to be a network with everybody, but.
Yes, well, and they have their own approaches to this.
Correct.
Including telehealth and whatever, where.
Yep. And we work with Kaiser in Colorado and a couple other locations as well. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just, bringing up.
So you're a national company?
Yes, we are. We're in over 20 states across the United States, operating in 50 different markets.
So the person that you dispatch would be, what would their level of licensure be?
We pair up a dispatch health medical technician, which is usually EMT, with a primary, with an individual who's either a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant.
Okay.
And then we have an ED physician that's available virtually to assist in coaching if that's needed. But we employ all of our personnel and all of our medical teams, and they're very well trained in emergency medicine and providing care in the home or place of residence.
And someone with prescribing authority. So
exactly, that's the big difference between us and so many organizations that are out there that try to provide sort of quick urgent care in the home. They don't provide someone with prescribing authority.
Yeah,
and there's no one in the District of Columbia.
All of my neighbors refuse to go to the ER because they don't want to sit in the chairs for 10 hours and they don't want to get dragged into the system for 3 days. So.
Well, and John, we should connect you to Nancy because she has a building in Green Court Way that might be useful for your operations. Inside joke.
Yes, it's a city-owned building.
It's inside joke, but also I would encourage you to avoid 11th Street as the bike lane is going in and busway, as you heard earlier, that may hinder dispatch. I would like to move that we send a letter of support for Dispatch Health for their certificate of need registration.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Rowe seconds. All those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. We will get you a letter of support, and I will send that to Shipka. I can never remember the name of the acronym of it, and send you a copy of that as well.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. And finally, Derek, you're up for 1145 17th Street. Northwest, the U.S. National Geographic Society.
Hi, I'm actually going to pass it to my colleague, Carrie. Hi, good evening, commissioners. I'm Kerry Kavlicek from Goulston and Storrs. I'm the Land Use Council for the National Geographic Society. Excuse me, with me tonight is my colleague Derek Wallace, as you heard. Also Emily Dunham and Peter Jaffe from National Geographic, and Jeff Lockwood from Hikako Architects, who's the project architect. We're here primarily tonight to talk about the BZA application for a rooftop bar and restaurant on the building located at 1147 17th Street Northwest, which is the westernmost building on the National Geographic site. That's, excuse me, at the corner of M and 17th Streets. But before that, we realized, of course, that National Geographic is newly in this ANC. Previously, it was in the DuPont Circle ANC. And so we wanted to spend a little time tonight also just kind of wanting to let you know what's going on with National Geographic and some of the exciting changes that are coming in addition to the application. So I'm going to turn it over to Emily right now. And she's going to kind of explain some of what's going on with National Geographic, and then go back to me and I'll talk specifically about the BZA relief.
So. Great. Thank you so much, Carrie. So I'm Emily Dunham. I'm head of campus planning and operations for National Geographic Society. I really appreciate your time this evening and the important work that you're doing to serve the community. National Geographic has been located in this neighborhood for almost 120 years. We started at the corner of 16th and M Street, where our first building, Hubbard Hall, opened its doors in 1904, and that building is still standing. Our presence along 16th Street grew through the early 1900s as the building expanded as our staff grew. And then our iconic stone building at 17th and M was completed in 1963. Between the buildings, our M Street property adjoins them both, and that was opened in 1984. Excluding M Street and its front courtyard, the campus is a historic landmark. Our campus has been primarily used as office space. We've had a small museum and a store on the first floor of the 17th Street building, which has attracted approximately 125,000 guests per year pre-pandemic. Our mission is to illuminate and protect the wonder of our world. And throughout the years, we've worked toward that mission by funding the work of National Geographic explorers, sharing their discoveries and their stories with the public, first through the magazine and later through other media channels. But up until now, we have done that minimally in person with a relatively small number of guests and tourists each year. We do see an opportunity to engage in person with hundreds of thousands of additional visitors every year by transforming our campus into one that is a prominent visitor destination in DC. And to that end, we are working on a project we've entitled Base Camp, and that project is underway. It will connect the first floor of our entire campus from 16th all the way to 17th Street, using significantly more of all four of our existing buildings as public space. We will add a new pavilion in the current front courtyard, and all told, the public space will increase by 7 times in our existing footprint. This project has already been through the process of ANC, BZA, and HPRB review and approval, and below grade work has already begun. We hope to open to the public in 2026. The new visitor attraction will include some traditional museum type spaces, as well as some exciting new interactive experiences. The spaces will include an outdoor courtyard that will celebrate the Earth's biomes and will have a short nighttime projection experience. Visitors will enter that courtyard and into our new pavilion, which will have an impressive multimedia experience with amazing images and videos that National Geographic is known for. We'll have a photo gallery and a temporary gallery that will debut our new exhibits before they go on the road. We'll have a 400-seat auditorium that will show the story of National Geographic every 30 minutes for visitors. An interactive magazine wall, an education center designed to welcome hundreds of school kids each day, an archives experience for visitors to dive deeper into the history of our maps and our magazines, and a walkthrough immersive experience where a visitor becomes a National Geographic explorer. They're transported from an office setting to a helicopter, to a volcano, or a submersible, and then back to our headquarters. We'll have a restaurant and a retail store, and then the roof of our new pavilion structure will also serve as an event space. We are building our operations to accept many more visitors per year, and with this expected increase in visitor attendance and visitor capacity and our easy access to the metro, We believe this project will significantly boost tourism, which will support local businesses, hotels, and restaurants. The upper floors of our 16th and M Street buildings will remain office space, while the 17th Street building will be public space for the visitor attraction. And then floors 4 through 10 of that building, we are planning the conversion of the space to a National Geographic branded boutique hotel. The 10th floor will be the hotel lobby with a 3-meal restaurant. Floors 5 through 9 will be guest rooms. We're planning on up to 160 guest rooms. And then the 4th floor will have hotel offices and a ballroom to host meetings and events. We believe this hotel will be a complement to our base camp project, drawing in more tourists, business travelers, and events to the neighborhood. Thank you, and I'll kick it back over to Carrie.
Thanks, Emily. So I'm going to talk specifically about the BZA relief that's being sought. So I'm going to share my screen here just to kind of run through some images to orient everyone. As Emily mentioned, the upper floors of the 17th Street building, or also known as the Durrell Stone building, will be converted into a hotel. And as part of that, on the roof level, there will be an addition to the existing penthouse where there'll be a bar and restaurant. So here's just to orient you again to the site. What's outlined in yellow is the Durrell Stone building that's going to be converted into the hotel. You can see the existing penthouse there. Here are some images of the building. This is what the rooftop currently looks like. So it's just, a flat, unused space that contains mechanical equipment. A few more images of what the roof looks like. This is the plan for what will be added to the rooftop. So what's in gray is the existing penthouse, some more mechanical enclosure on the left, which is to the south. And then on the right is where the bar and restaurant, as well as an outdoor terrace associated with that bar and restaurant, will be located. That's to the north. Here's just some plan view images. This is looking from the west. To the right is the mechanical equipment. To the left is where the bar and restaurant will be located. This is from the north M Street plan view, or elevation view, I'm sorry, of the planned addition for the restaurant and bar. This is just a up closer image. It's worth noting that the addition of this bar and restaurant penthouse and the mechanical addition on the south side will all comply with zoning in terms of setbacks and other measurements. The only reason that BZA approval is needed here is for the use. There's a requirement in the zoning regulations that rooftop restaurants and bars get BZA approval, but otherwise there's no zoning relief needed for what's being proposed as far as the structure goes. This is the mechanical on the south, another view of the restaurant terrace and enclosure. Just yet another view you can see there what it'll look like once the addition is added to the roof, and yet another view. And then finally, just a close up of what it will look like on the roof. So as if you were standing then, of course, this is basically a catty corner across 17th and M Street, what the view of the buildings look like. So in terms of the BZA relief, the standard for approval is essentially that there's no adverse impact. As I'm sure you're aware, this is a primarily commercial part of the city. The building is surrounded primarily by office buildings. There are some other hotels nearby. A restaurant and bar, of course, is a use that's permitted in the zone and is otherwise appropriate for this area. It's just the fact that it's on the roof that we need BZA approval. But otherwise, like I mentioned, it complies with all zoning standards. And there's no adverse impact expected, particularly because there are no nearby residences. So I will keep it short and sweet there. We're happy to answer any questions. As I mentioned, Jeff Lockwood, the project architect, is here, as well as Emily and Peter from National Geographic. So please, if you have any additional questions, let us know. Oh, and I just want to add that we are requesting a letter of support to the BZA for our BZA application. Our hearing date is November 1st.
Thank you for being early. That is great. Question. In the one image that you showed us this is huge flat kind of roof area. And then you, in your drawing, you showed us like the restaurant or the restaurant, bar and restaurant and the mechanical. Is that building up a floor? Is that what's happening? Is that what we're doing?
No, I'll share my screen again. So,
like that little thing on top.
yeah, so I'll go back to the plan. Well, so here's a good way of saying it. So the existing penthouse is what's sort of the tallest thing in the middle here. This is a non-conforming penthouse. It's not set back as required, but it's an existing condition. We're not changing that. So what is being added, which is the restaurant and bar to the left, and then the screening around the new mechanical equipment on the right, those will comply with all setback and height requirements for penthouses.
Got it. And you're coming to us specifically because you require a BZA because it is a restaurant and bar on a penthouse.
Yes, exactly. There is a quirky requirement in the zoning regulations that rooftop bars and restaurants must get BZA approval.
Got it.
I can't tell you more than that, other than it's in the regulations.
It's probably one of those things that hasn't been reviewed since, who knows when.
Yeah.
But definitely. I think like this makes complete sense. I'm really kind of excited about the hotel capability. Was that a pivot for you all because of COVID? And like having extra space, or I'm just curious. I know it's outside the BZA, but I'm just really kind of fascinated that there's a hotel option here.
Yeah, there is a hotel option. We currently, the Australian Embassy is in most of those floors, and as you may know, they had been in a building. They've been our tenant. They're building their new building that opens, or may already be open. They're moving out this fall. So as we were assessing what we could do with that space, certainly it could be office space, but as we all know, there isn't a huge market for new office tenants. And because we were already building our new visitor attraction, we felt like it was a really good opportunity to consider a hotel. We already have a lot of business guests coming and going, but with hundreds of thousands of new visitors and our brand being such a fun experiential brand, we think it's a great opportunity.
It's really, really great. I like it. Commissioners, do you have any questions? All right. I like to move that we send a letter of support for National Geographic Society and the addition of their penthouse and mechanical enclosure for the BZA.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and all those in favor? 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor. Yay! Awesome. So we will get that off for you, and we will. Or do you want us? I usually send the letters directly to BZA, but I'll send you a copy of it. Is that what you?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. And just for your reference, the case number is 20968.
20968.
Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging in there to us at the end here too. Thank you. Appreciate
No problem.
that.
Thank you.
There's no other business that I believe this evening. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, and Thomas is already
making the motion.
Mr. Lee is like, I'm out. Thank you all so very much. We appreciate you being here tonight with us, and we will look forward to seeing you on August 8th.
Yay.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody. Be well.